It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Rene Ritchie's here. Andy Ihnatko, Lory Gill will talk about the TikTok ban and why I wouldn't be too optimistic if I were Epic in the Apple Epic battle, plus the Widgetsmith that won the West. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. Securing every access point in your company doesn't have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure, even when they're working remotely. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 733, recorded Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. The Capybara and the Pumpkin. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by CashFly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with CashFly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cashfly.com. And by LastPass. Let LastPass improve your employees' experience while safeguarding your business from cyber threats. LastPass is the #1 password manager. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. And by Twilio. Strengthen your customer relationships by uniting communications across your entire business. Get everything you need to build and deliver a new customer experience with Twilio. Go to twilio.com to learn more. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the latest news from Apple. Joining us, Rene Ritchie from Montreal, where he is quickly cranking out yet another YouTube video on his Rene Ritchie channel. Hello, Rene.
Hello, Leo. Actually, we're back. We're freshly back on quote-unquote lockdown as of today. Well, no, as of Thursday, I think.
Oh, it's coming back.
Yeah. It turns out not doing anything about it didn't work, so now we're going to try to do something again.
Yeah.
No.
Andy Ihnatko's also here. He's locked down so badly he can't go across the street to his favorite restaurant.
I can. I just don't want to, especially if I've got a drone that can carry a breakfast sandwich and or one of the premium bakery donuts that they make on the weekends.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
It's just. It would. I'd say I don't even need a drone. I could just do like one of those clotheslines on a basket. And
I'm sure you could arrange that. I am glad I don't live across the street from a store that has donuts. So
I'm very glad that they only have them on weekends, because they're not just like, oh, we bought a donut machine. It's like there is like, if you were to name one of the 2 or 3 best donut bakeries like in the state, they like make a special trip out and they pick up like 3 dozen from this. And so the rule is 1 a week, only Saturday morning, only 1 a week, because otherwise it would be all the donuts all the time. No restrictions.
This is why quarantine's been bad for my diet, because I know it's in the, I know there's a refrigerator 10 feet away with all sorts of treats in there. And I have no impulse control. If I had a breakfast sandwich across the street from me, I'd eat it.
Yep. I'd have moved in.
I won't derail this completely, but I will say that I started off by saying, after like 1 month into lockdown, saying, you know what, we just need a marker every single week to denote the end of the week and something just to look forward to. Like, so how about like we normally don't get takeout pizza, but we'll have like takeout pizza every Friday night.
Right.
That we'll remove that restriction. And now we're up to, I get to get takeout pancakes from the diner every Monday morning. I get to have a donut every Friday. Every Saturday morning, and like now so September was the month I really had to do an audit and say that, okay,
back a little here.
That hoagie that we said that we're going to get every Wednesday, we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah,
we're not going to.
Should do what I do. Wednesday is shower day, and that's all. It really demarcates the week. Lory Gill is also here, managing editor at imore.com. She's got deadlines, so she doesn't need a calendar. She knows, right? She knows.
Yes, I know exactly.
Yeah. Great to have you all here. I'm going to ask, because it's Tuesday, And we're a week away from the first Tuesday in October. Any invitations in the mail?
I think next week. I think we'll get them next week.
You don't think it's going to be the 8th? It's the 6th of October.
13th.
I think it'll be the 13th.
Whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys all heard that Prime Day is also on the 13th and 14th, right? So that's going to be kind of a crazy day.
Don't die, Lory. Please don't die.
I might.
Oh no, it's good. I'm going to be up. You're going to be up all night because I turned down an opportunity to get 80 cents off a string of LED string lights. It's
That's right. Here's your
I've been
opportunity.
waiting all year for this.
Big chance. Yeah, I intentionally ignore Prime Day because I feel like I'm getting scammed. I don't know how. I just know I am.
There are deals there. You just have to like subscribe to the right like mailing lists or the right Reddit groups or the right Twitter feeds to say, oh, by the way, they snuck in a really good deal on this Blu-ray box set, or actually this Bluetooth speaker was really well reviewed and it's legitimately 50% off. But
you gotta know what you're doing. Let's see.
And by invitations, you mean we'll hear that there's an event that we can attend via our browser.
Yeah.
Right.
The next week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But so that's one reason they don't actually. They could still be having it on October 6th. They don't have to tell you too far ahead of time, right?
That's true.
How early did the notice come for last event?
A week.
A week. Okay, so maybe they're sticking to that.
And unlike Comic-Con, Los Angeles Comic-Con, I don't think Apple's anywhere nearly as reckless as to try to do a physical event.
Oh gosh, no. Well, how did that go?
They haven't done it. They announced it for December.
Cosplay with masks.
No guests have signed up. So it's basically
there you go.
Comics fans get to hang out with other comics fans, which,
Breathing
as anybody who's spent any time on any message board knows, doesn't always go well.
Well, there's plenty to talk about. We on Sunday, I tried to make Twitter as long as possible. We were waiting for the judge's decision, but as long as I waited,
wasn't that the best? I was reading the thread live on Twitter, and it was like watching a really slightly angry, slightly disappointed, really like parent talking to two kids. It's like, no, Timmy, you knew that was his bagel. No other Timmy, you know that you weren't allowed to put that there.
I think that's actually the role of the judicial system in our country. They're the parental figures. So the judge ordered put a stay on the TikTok ban. What do we have to say about that? Anything?
First, again, opening salvo, something that's going to get really, really complicated because the question that's been on everyone's minds to begin with is that on what authority does the government have the ability to simply ban an app without basically pulling in a lot of legislative support?
The judge pointed to due process, basically. There's no due process. Exactly. You can't just say, I don't like it.
Right.
By the way, the opinion was issued under seal for some reason. I don't know why. So we couldn't read his judicial reasoning, but he did say during the hearing, the Trump administration ban as structured could be considered, quote, a fairly significant deprivation, end quote, of the company's due process rights. That's, the least of it, but yeah. You can't just decide, I think it's Chinese, so I think it's bad, so we're going to ban it. You
can't just give money to your friend, I think is the thing. It's like, I think Larry deserves a few $1 million. We'll just whip this up so that Larry can have that money.
Yeah. You think that's...
let's not be hasty. How much did you donate to the campaign?
Yeah.
A lot.
Is it a net gain? So
he was doing a fundraiser, wasn't he? That was
earlier this month, the Commerce Department, which I'm assuming at this point is acting at the president's behest, said that TikTok downloads would be banned on September 20th and that further restrictions would go in effect November 12th. Basically, those further restrictions would eliminate you wouldn't be able to, you could still have TikTok on your phone, but it would block TikTok's internet traffic, at which point you could have it on your phone, but you wouldn't see anything. Commerce delayed the initial, this is so confusing, delayed the initial deadline last weekend when Oracle stepped forward with a little help from Walmart to acquire, between the two of them, 20% of TikTok. And the president gave it his tentative, like it sounds all right to me, but I got to check into it, approval. There was no deal memo. There was no detail at all except that, we're going to do this.
And the education fund, like they announced
the $5 billion.
we have no idea what this education.
Yeah. Plus,
unclear, by the way, whether that $5 billion would come from Oracle's pocket or TikTok's pocket. This was how fuzzy
the government's pocket.
This is how fuzzy the whole thing was. It's well, and in fact, I think that the TikTok's thinking, not that this was approved by anybody, was we'll do an IPO of this new TikTok Global, and we will take $5 billion from the money raised from the IPO and give that to the president. I'm sorry, not the president, the Treasury Department, on behalf of the president, and then, but I think that was TikTok's understanding. I don't think it was the president's understanding. Yeah. But anyway, no, it's completely unclear. The deal is just kind of floating around. So the judge, I guess the judge now, by saying that, and the Commerce Department, by the way, said they would comply. And notice TikTok is still on the App Store. The Commerce also said our order is fully consistent with the law and promotes legitimate national security interests, which, by the way, could very well be, and the government's going to vigorously defend its order.
The algorithm is the biggest danger, like probably more so than the data, and they totally took that off the table like weeks ago, and nobody even mentioned it. Nobody blinked.
That's because no one has said what the danger is. So we've talked about this. I'm trying to break it down in my head. There's two, I would say, presumptive dangers. One is that the Chinese government could use the data TikTok has about its users somehow. They could say to TikTok, hey, I want to know where Leo Laporte lives. That's one danger.
They can make a social graph of American citizens.
Or make a social graph. The other danger is that they would use it, and actually this seems more likely, but anyway, that they would use it as a propaganda arm, kind of a radio-free China. In any event, there'll still be a trial. This is a temporary injunction.
Two things, by the way, Facebook has been caught doing, but they are in no way being regulated. We're just targeting a company, not a business practice here.
Well, that's a question I might ask you all. It's one thing to give it to the Chinese government, a presumed, I don't want to say enemy, but opponent. Another thing to give it to an American company, Facebook. But from the point of view of the end user,
just protect me from everybody.
Well,
and Facebook could be used to propagandize not just by the Chinese government, but by the Russian government, by anybody who wants to.
They've admitted
Facebook has been weaponized.
Admitted they make us sad.
Yeah.
They've been caught doing that, manipulating our emotions with their newsfeed.
Not only that, but revelations just a couple of days ago about, at least in the 2016 elections, about how operatives of one party, shall we say, were using targeted ads to basically say there are some people that we want to encourage to vote. There are some demographics that we want to discourage to vote. So we're going to target ads specifically to basically keep one group of people at home, another group of people coming in through rain and sleet and dark of night. But this whole thing is kind of a mess because the government needs to outline specific reasons other than, well, they're a Chinese company, because it would appear that it's not true that just because a company is based in China that they are doing the whims of the Chinese government. Also, TikTok seems to be taking the same stance that every single other social media company that has a presence and has a worldwide presence, including China, has, which is to all their Chinese users, their data is on a server inside China. We're subject to Chinese government control. All other than Chinese users are on a server that's actually in Virginia, I think, but outside of China, so that this data is outside of the direct purview of the government that every single social media company wants to at least exert some control over, because their internal security laws mean that they could do anything to any server that's actually based on their entire data. But really, it seems as though most of what China is interested in is making sure they're keeping tabs on their own citizens, and we could have problems with that, but that's a totally separate issue from thinking that just because TikTok is owned by a company that's based in China, they must be a security threat, and therefore we're going to use questionable legal authority to shut them down.
My big problem with the whole thing is it has nothing to do with security. It has nothing to do with anything. It's security theater. Look, nobody denies. I think it's very clear that we are in a little bit of a kind of I don't know what kind of economic
Wild West?
and propaganda struggle. No, I'm talking about our relationship with China. In a struggle with China over a number of things, their human rights record with the Uyghur Muslims, their Belt and Road Initiative, which is attempting to assert its soft power, its economic hegemony over much of the world, nothing that we would ever do. So there, and perhaps even as a kind of hot opponent with cyber warfare, I don't think that anybody reasonably thinks the Chinese are going to invade our shores or anything like that. But they're clearly there's tensions there. It seems to me the kinds of tensions that will require a lot of strategic thinking and diplomacy and negotiation and long-term thinking. And so it seems like banning an app is the silliest way to address something that is much more complex and, in fact, has no relationship with any of the issues that we're really struggling with China, except that it might piss them off, which is
exactly.
Like
that's one of the biggest bummers, because it's like this wins nothing for the United States, doesn't make us safer, doesn't make us more free, doesn't tackle any sort of a human rights problem that we are taking issue with. It is simply a fight just to create the PR that that some of us are being
tough. The appearance of
against,
being tough,
right. And
as
given
opposed to the actual reality of thinking about this. It's a shakedown too. Yeah,
right. Exactly. And the Chinese government has also said, basically, made their annoyance very heavily known that this is a power grab so that an American company can buy equity in a very successful Chinese company, basically steal equity away from a Chinese company, which obviously they can take an issue with.
Yeah.
That's
why the Chinese government said, well, you can't have the algorithm and just as we have done in the past, that is of real, perhaps even military value. So you can't have that, but you can have the assets of the company because it's just freaking TikTok. Who cares? Right. Oh, you want an app? Okay, fine. I have to think
the algorithm was a security thing. So like, how can you proceed with this as a security thing if you don't even acknowledge that they took the algorithm off the table?
Right. If that's the security issue, because we don't even know what the issue is.
It's really like theater with one actor not on stage.
You've got a guy playing three-dimensional chess, President Xi in China, and we're playing tic-tac-toe. Yeah. And it's just it's silly. It's a waste of energy all around.
This is one of the more annoying things that the more I read about how government works, or excuse me, when it's working well, it's that there are the people who come and go, the people who are elected and are not elected or come out of term limits. But then behind the scenes, across the street from the White House, across the street from the Congress, there's always been here's the office where the people who have been at this job and focusing just on this issue of Chinese-American economic relations for 10, 20, 30 years. And when someone new comes on board, they learn from experience of 10, 20, 30 years of experience in this job. And so when a government official who has the power to create policy needs some information saying, hey, I'm really concerned about TikTok, what would be the repercussions if we were to make a move against this company? Someone with 10, 20, 30 years worth of experience can say, I can tell you, here's the book, here's exactly how this is going to play out. You can fast forward to the very end because we will tell you exactly what will happen about this. But then when you have administration and Congress people who are saying, well, those people are like part of the swamp, they're part of the establishment, we can make our own decisions without the benefits of 10, 20, 30 years of experience in exactly this issue. This is the brain drain. It's just as, I mean, it's as damaging when Apollo 17 launched and 3,000 people at NASA who knew exactly how to run a 2-week-long space mission were fired and then they lost all that experience. It's also in any institution, the most valuable asset is if you've been around for 10, 20, 30 years, the knowledge of how the world works and how to run this business. You don't want that knowledge to go away.
There's also collateral damage, and there's a great piece in Stratechery. Unfortunately, it's behind the paywall on Stratechery. Ben Thompson talking about Widgetsmith, David Smith, who is an independent iOS developer, and created, once widgets were available on iOS 14, created a widget, was first out. By the way, he got it out the day iOS 14 came out last week. Put out an app that let you create your own widgets. It's a really great app. And it was thanks to TikTok, a really great app from probably a lesser known developer, although apparently he's done 59 iOS apps to date.
He's a machine. He's amazing.
He's a machine. But thanks to TikTok, it suddenly is a huge
How to
hit.
make your iOS 14 home screen aesthetic AF.
Aesthetic as AF. This is how you do it. So this TikToker, Catamogs, has millions of followers. This actually got tens of millions of views. And all of a sudden, Widgetsmith is the #1 app and has been the #1 app on the App Store ever since. And to completely do, I mean, we talked about it on iOS today, but we don't have Catamogs clout. Completely because of TikTok.
And now dozens of YouTube videos too. It's like it went. I don't know what the right word for viral is in 2020 because I feel like we shouldn't use that anymore. I don't know what it.
Yeah,
what we should call it.
It went COVID
but
on us, man.
It blew up. Like it was all over TikTok, and then everyone else starts making it, and then everyone trend jacks, and so there was tons of YouTube videos, like by really big YouTubers as well, and it just went everywhere. And that's sort of the power of that's the power of social when it helps the developer.
And by the way, that's one of the points Ben makes is this is when the App Store, this is the kind of the vision of the App Store that Apple has, which is some little independent developer doesn't have to worry about distribution costs, doesn't have to worry about anything but is making a great widget and suddenly, profit.
It's like the server didn't go down the second the third person downloaded it, and then all of that potential income went down the drain.
Right. Ben, by the way, poo-poos that notion because, of course, the internet was what really introduced zero-cost distribution. But
the internet doesn't scale. I mean, remember Twit would take down websites when you'd introduce an app a few years ago?
Yeah.
And Daring Fireball would take down websites.
Yeah, that's right. We used to call it. You've been twitted. Yes.
Yeah, the Twit army would take down
I'm
whole websites.
sad that we can't take down websites anymore. That's such a bummer.
Well, you trained them better, Leo. You trained them to get massive
sites.
cloud infrastructures behind them.
Yeah.
They just didn't have them back then.
So, on the other hand, as John Gruber pointed out in Daring Fireball, even though Widgetsmith was clearly the hit, Apple somehow allowed a Widgetsmith color widgets to be on the App Store and steal a huge amount of momentum from the real deal. The ripoff app has, according to Gruber, the ripoff app, it's gone now, by the way, had 25 5-star ratings. One written review which says that thanks developer for making such a great app, especially for iOS 14. The whole thing is a ripoff. And Apple, actually eventually pulled it down only after John Gruber wrote about it. This is a constant problem with the App Store is you search for something and the thing you're looking for is at the bottom of a long list of clones.
But if you start,
they didn't just allow
if you start blaming Apple for like bad apps getting into the App Store, you're kind of like walking into this danger zone where you want Apple to curate the App Store for you very specifically, but you also want developers to have the freedom to do what they want. And if Apple is going in and hand picking every single app that makes it into the App Store, then you're kind of you're stuck there. Apple can't necessarily know that Widgetsmith was the first one and that Widgetsmith dash color options or whatever it was not. And so you have to like, it's like, it's owning a boutique where everybody goes in and sells their products and you're not the one who's picking what does or doesn't go in. You're just making sure that what does go in is good quality, or in some circumstances it's coming in so fast that you don't even notice that it's good quality and you let it slip through because you've got so much going on.
And as I think you were starting to say, Rene, Widgetsmith, the phony, was the top search result, not the real
and I
deal.
think Gruber's point was the Bunko Squad. Like one of the grievances, like I think there's a lot of silly grievances and a lot of real ones on the App Store. And one of the ones I think is really real is that for the 30% that Apple is taking, they are not often providing the service. Maybe not often as hard, but they're not always providing the service that should come with that. And Gruber calls it the Bunko Squad. And David Barnard has been talking about this for years, where there are apps that legally should not be there, or certainly apps that degrade the quality of the store and provide bad results for customers. And Apple's whole thing is the App Store is supposed to create a better experience. That's why they fight so hard to maintain control over it. And when things like this happens, it just shatters confidence and faith in the system. And I think they should be hyper vigilant, especially in iOS launch times, because it costs real people real money.
He says there should be an App Store bunco squad that says, no, you can't.
It should be filled with a microphone. You can't talk here. You can't talk to me on top of my search results. Move that out.
The way I prefer to think of it is that if you're paying the mob protection money, if some punk breaks the window of your store, that should be the very last time that happens to any store on that block. I mean, you're not happy you're being shaken down, but you're expecting the mob to come through for you. You can't trust the mob.
At least if you shake me down, you should stay.
What am I paying? What am I paying you for, except for not having my store set fire to and my dog?
We did not say we would prevent other people from breaking your window, just that we wouldn't do it. Just to be clear, it's in the fine print. I'm sure Apple's a little embarrassed at that.
No, I'm sorry, it scared me. You should take a look at that agreement. You agreed to binding arbitration.
It's right. It's right. There's no question in my mind.
No, but the thing where it's hard is that App Store search has been criticized rightly for years. This is not new technology. Doing things like nearest neighbor and figuring out what has high attachment. All of this stuff Google figured out a decade ago, and most of this stuff is public domain now. And yet Apple still has these weird hodgepodge searches that don't provide good results for people. I mean, they've got misspellings now. That took forever to handle like basic misspellings, but it still is not a good search engine, and it should be one of the best search engines in the world.
Gruber's best line is, if Apple ran a food court like they ran the App Store, they'd let a McDowell's open 2 stores down from McDonald's. I didn't know about McDowell's. That's it from Coming to America reference.
There you go. Good deep cut there.
All right. So TikTok, we've now covered TikTok, the App Store, Widgetsmith. I think this show is done. Thank you very much for joining us.
I thought when you mentioned court, I thought you were talking about the Epic trial yesterday, where I was just reading through it, watching the judge just smack these people around. Like
that's the parental thing. All right, well, let's talk about the Rebel Alliance. I'm sorry. What is the name that they should have called themselves?
They're not the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel Alliance were fighting for the rights of the people.
The Coalition for App Fairness.
These are a group of billionaires who are angry at trillionaires for not making it easier for them to become the trillionaires and just want to use us differently.
It was kind of like hard to watch. It was a real cringe sort of thing where the judge was like motion after like point after point after point saying, Epic, but that's not what you did. Said, okay, but you're saying that it's because of rightness and valiantness, but you asked for this fight, and now you're complaining that you got the fight that you asked for. Or say, okay, you're complaining about security, but that's not. It's hard to think that they got anything. The only piece of remotely good news that I could pick apart from the entire hearing was that the judge can't hear this until July of next year, and secondly, she is inclined to make this like a jury proceeding, so that if it's all based exactly I'm not even joking. It's like if it were just based on here is a judge who knows what the law is and has a really good view on here is what the court is supposed to be used for and here's what it's not supposed to be used for. This was not a good day for Epic. But if they can still convince random people who are not tech people that, hey, let me tell you about freedom. Let me tell you about the ability
So you're saying they're really the Empire pretending to be the Rebel Alliance?
No, but the worst part was where the judge called for the second part of the trial, and the Epic lawyer actually says out loud, "Well, I didn't do so well in that first part."
Judge,
you said the quiet part out loud.
We should give her credit.
You got to own it at some point.
This is Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers of the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. Here is a quote from CNN. You did something. You lied about it by omission, by not being forthcoming. That's the security issue. That's the security issue. There are a lot of people in the public who consider you guys heroes for what you guys did, but it's still not honest. Ooh, ow, spanked.
Yeah.
Burn.
And that was one of the nicer ways she put it.
Judge Roberts, according to CNN, was not particularly persuaded by Epic's, that's a nice way to put it, by Epic's argument that Apple bundled its App Store and in-app payment system together in violation of antitrust law. She also said she did not necessarily agree with Epic that Apple has harmed its ability to distribute Fortnite. Walled gardens, said the judge. This is actually, remember we said when we learned it was Judge Gonzalez, we said that, you know what, this is going to be, she's not a fool. She understands this stuff.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Walled gardens, she said, have existed for decades. She clearly understands what's going on here. Nintendo has had a walled garden. Sony has had a walled garden. Microsoft has had a walled garden. What Apple's doing is not much different. It's hard to ignore the economics of the industry, which is what you're asking me to do.
She understands it better than the U.S. Congress.
It's kind of remarkable.
I'm not even joking about that. Yeah, she's got a deep knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion is just that I don't know necessarily that Epic has a case. I think that it's worthwhile to at least have the argument that this is what the industry does, this is an industry practice, has not always carried water with a judge. I mean, coincidentally, we were talking about Coming to America. Art Buchwald, I forget what the origins of the case were, but one of the writers sued based on Hollywood accounting, saying that, well, look, you're telling me that this movie that has grossed $1.8 billion according to their own PR, the studio's own PR company, according to like the net profit that I have been issued, I've made 18 cents on this over 15 years. The defense that the studios provided was, well, this is standard practice, and the judge said, yeah, but your standard practice is crap. You're gonna have to come up with another idea. So I've always thought that it was worthwhile to have this standard industry practice at least tested in court for someone, again, maybe a little bit more agile than Epic, to make the argument that perhaps there needs to be some more flexibility in this model, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they would even win that argument. But I've wanted this sort of discussion just so that we can say that, look, this concept has had its day in court, because I am troubled by parts of the way that these industries are run. I'm pleased to hear that Google has announced that for Android 12, they're going to make it easier to make users hook up to different app stores. They're still insisting on Google's payment systems for things that go through the Play Store. But I do think that the opening up of a device to alternative app stores is something that could benefit users greatly. And so, again, I welcome at least the legal argument to say that, to put some pressure on Apple to say, here is why we are forcing everybody to buy all of their software from our store and making it impossible for people to use software from any other store.
By the way, the second completely independent reference to the 1988 movie Coming to America, and they say the universe is random. Buchwald said
we plan all this. We do 2 hours of rehearsal for every half hour of this show.
How can you come back to Coming to America? Let's think about it. Buchwald alleged that Paramount stole the idea. They said, well, we don't owe you anything. It earned no net profit, even though it made $288 million. Right. They gave him $900,000, which I think is a fair price. I mean, that's a column, so
But they do that all the time. They always make a new company that then leases back all the assets to the main company. So
so clever. Here's the real question. By the way, the judge said, I prefer a jury trial. So however sophisticated the judge might be, it does throw everything up in the air, because a jury trial. She also
offered escrow, and Apple said yes, and Epic is like, no, it was money that we walked away from. We want it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're going to get it. She also says that given her schedule, the case won't go to trial till July of next year. So a jury trial in July, perhaps. The judge skeptical. But the judge
Epic is not the Batman we wanted or needed.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's not that the app. So that's the question I guess I want to ask, which is, did she say this diminished the App Store in any way, or just merely that Epic isn't the right person to pursue this? She said a finding in Epic's behavior. I'm sorry. This is Apple's lawyer. Never mind.
Right. I think Epic was asking for a lot of relief, all of which were completely denied. and basically gave the judge the opportunity to say, here is a laundry list of all the different arguments that you're going to have to provide the math for before you insist on the harm to the industry, the harm to yourself, the harm to consumers. They're also also just simply the idea of antitrust is very, very well defined. There's a lot of precedent to call upon, and so it's going to be Epic is going to have to come up with something stronger than we know antitrust when we see it, and we're looking at it right now, Apple. And so, yeah.
So she has not yet ruled on the injunction, but just based on the way she responded on yesterday, it doesn't look good for Epic, but we still have to wait for that. And then they'll set a trial date. So even the injunction is just a temporary decision.
I thought Epic was so smart at the beginning. I thought they were so tactical when they originally sued Apple, but not Google. And then they sued Google. I'm like, that feels like a misstep because you kind of want more of the Google. And then they just one thing after another. It feels like Tim Epic has a hissy fit against Tim Apple instead of this being like a real precise. Like Basecamp did a better job of litigating this than Epic did.
Well, Basecamp is in the Rebel Alliance, the Coalition for App Fairness, includes Epic, Spotify, Tile, of course. CEO testified against Apple in front of Congress, saying we can't compete with what Apple's doing. Basecamp is in there. They had the Hey.com email app, which, by the way, I think sank without a trace anyway, despite the huge amount of publicity they got. And Apple eventually kind of conceding.
Some people who really like it, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I tried it and just
didn't do anything for me. Blix is involved. I don't know what Blix is. Blockchain, Deezer, another music company. This is how you know this is not the Rebel Alliance. The European Publishers Council, Match. I'm not sure if that's Match the magazine or Match the app. I don't know.
No, it's the Tinder people.
Tinder people. News Media Europe, Prepare, Proton Mail, and Sky Demon. Most of these.
The thing that's so interesting to me.
So these are all.
Go ahead, Lory. First, Lory, and then you.
These are all companies that are saying that they can't compete because Apple is too big. Like, what's their argument? What are they saying is bad about?
They say it's anti-competitive. Here's their demands. They say no developer should be required to use the App Store exclusively. You should be allowed to sell independently of that. Every developer should always have access to the app stores. Every developer should always have the right to communicate directly with its user through its app. Apple also prohibits that. By the way, it's not about communicating directly to the user through the app. It's about getting the user information.
Right.
Which Apple blocks for privacy reasons, right?
Right. Yeah.
No app store. And this is the problem with all this. It's a little mealy-mouthed. It's like, we just want to communicate directly with the user. No. Everybody understands what you really want is the user information so you can make a mailing list or marketing, sell it more. No app store owner or its platform should engage in self-preferencing its own apps or services. That, to me, is the antitrust issue. And the judge, by the way, did not buy into that. But is Apple somehow preferring its own apps? In other words, as an example, did they block xCloud, Microsoft's streaming gaming service, because they want you to use Arcade instead? Yeah. And I think that is somewhere that you could go with this in an antitrust. No developer should be required to pay unfair, reasonable, or discriminatory fees or revenue shares. I don't think that holds water because 30% is kind of the standard across the board everywhere. Right. And I don't think it is unfair. It's a reasonable amount of money. So the big one to me is this notion of, is Apple somehow behaving anti-competitively?
Well, they also wanted access to all the developer stuff the minute that Apple has it, which seems just logistically
we got to write the book first. What are you talking about?
That's a Hail Mary you put in the filing.
I think
no matter
maybe
what.
Epic hired the wrong lawyer.
The thing that's interesting to me is that platforms don't have to be based on devices or based on operating systems. And we're seeing increasingly what's happening with YouTube and even OnlyFans and a bunch of different social networks that are more creator-centric. And I would not be shocked if next year we hear that Ninja is suing Epic because he wants his own skin and emote store inside Fortnite. He brings in so much revenue. They shouldn't. And also that maybe Drake or maybe Taylor Swift wants their own subscription premium service inside Spotify because Spotify is so big. They're the platform.
There's an excellent way to kind of turn the tables on this.
I doubt it.
Right.
That's it. that you may as well say that I'm going to sue Coca-Cola for having
no, not that it would happen, but he's saying it's an example of the same thing, right? And so that's a reach. That's absurd.
I think those services get bigger and bigger. They own more and more of the market, and then it becomes unfeasible to launch a product if you're not part of those services. And then if you're a really powerful, that's what Epic is doing. They're saying we're really powerful.
Right.
It's infeasible to launch anything outside the App Store or the Google Play Store. So we should have our own thing. And Ninja and Taylor Swift and all these people are going to get so big that they're going to say it's not feasible. You own the customer. We want to have a direct relationship, and we want to have our own billing service on your platform. And
what about there's one other potential avenue that I kind of agree with, which is that Apple seems to be somewhat inconsistent or unfair in enforcing its App Store policies. And what Epic's pointing at chiefly is the deal that Eddie Q made with Amazon, clearly kind of undermining their 30%.
And maybe again with Luna, we don't know.
Yeah, with Amazon's new gaming service. Yeah, is that good? That's going to be on iOS, but that's going to be somebody. Mike was saying that's a progressive web app. Is that not the case?
It's browser based, yeah.
So that Apple wouldn't have any control of anyway, right? I mean, we've even said if Epic could make Fortnite a browser-based game, they wouldn't have a problem.
Yes.
So the fact, I don't know how, I think that takes it out of that. Nevertheless, it's pretty clear that Eddie Q made a deal with Amazon because all of a sudden Amazon's, back on the store and stuff, not to take that full 30% cut. Am I right, Rene? Is that?
They created a new they say it's not a new category, but nobody knew about it before.
There's only two other people in that category.
Yes,
Alcatel
and Amazon. Premium video services.
Yeah. So that's I think that's also another avenue. So I think there's two avenues you could reasonably pursue, and maybe Epic made a strategic mistake by not going at those. Which is fine
if you're a small company. It's just not fine if you're Apple. Like all that wheeling dealing is exactly what Apple did for a decade and a half when they had no market share.
Right.
It becomes problematic only when you have so much market share.
Right.
Yeah. And there's, I think the bottom line here is that there's a lot of really good arguments to be made. There's a lot that Apple should be made to explain. It's just too bad that I really think that Epic had the early part of their planning was, let's do a parody of the 1984 video, and we'll have one of our Fortnite players be the woman with the sledgehammer, and they did something that was flashy as opposed to effective, because one of the things we haven't discussed is that we touched on it just a little bit, is that developers need to have the ability to establish a relationship with their own customers, and that's it's possible for a developer to sign up a user for all kinds of marketing stuff, but the thing is, I don't know any developer who says, I think it's great that I can't talk to my users directly. I think it's great that when there's this big layer between me and the customer service that I need to be able to perform for these people. And that is something that I really think that Apple needs to address. Apple also needs to address, if I'm giving you 30% and you're promising me a very, very safe place to do business, you have to give me that safe place to do business. You can't allow knockoffs of my app to ever make it into the App Store, on and on and on. It's just a shame that you have one of these flashy like TV lawyers filing this lawsuit, as opposed to metaphorically speaking, they did hire kind of a dream team of antitrust lawyers to prepare this case, but it feels like they've got this flashy TV lawyer who wants the soundbite, who wants the press conference afterward.
It's easy.
They don't want the win.
Basically, we're being Tuesday morning quarterbacks, because now that the judge has gone whap, it's easy to say, "Oops, that might not have been the best strategy." Maybe they didn't know that going in.
It's only stupid if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then that was very stupid, or you were very unlucky.
We have the benefit of knowing what the judge was going to say, and honestly, it isn't that much what the judge is going to say. Because if it's a jury trial, obviously the judge has a lot of influence on the jury. But if it's a jury trial, it may be Epic's and their attorneys just kind of feeling that, well, normal people are going to buy this. Normal people are going to get it. I'm not sure I agree with that.
Yeah.
We'll see. Come August 2021, we can say, see, that was a bad strategy.
Yeah.
If it gets, do you think it'll settle?
I think that if Epic wants to continue to make money off of Fortnite, I don't think that they can afford to have this benched for an entire year. I think
that's right.
I think that most.
I bet you that's what the judge was thinking when she said, "I'm really busy, so we're going to hold this off till next July." Is a code for you better get this solved now.
We're going to hurt both of you until you can fix this.
Yeah.
I keep remembering what a lawyer was telling me a few years ago, that most non criminal legal proceedings are basically about two lawyers hashing out a deal between each other and then telling the judge what they agreed upon. And that's kind of what the court system in these kind of cases is designed to work for. Because it's like, look, you don't want we don't want to have to put your case on the docket.
That's why she said jury. No, you can't predict a jury. Yeah. No one wants to do that. And I've been in this situation only once. I never, ever, ever want to go into a lawyer's boardroom with my attorneys and their attorneys and do the negotiation. It's the worst, and it's cutthroat, and it's a nightmare. But the stick is, or we could go to court. That's always a stick, you know.
And if you win, they'll just appeal, and we'll be off for another 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Right.
Even Apple and Samsung eventually settled. For God's sake, Popeye and Pluto settled their differences rather than continue in the courts.
Well, actually, that's a good point. There is no urgency on Apple's point of view. They don't care. It's all on Epic.
They're losing a little bit of Fortnite
It's all the money that they're losing every single day. That
money is more meaningful to Fortnite than Apple.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really from Apple's perspective. That's a really fluid thing. Like today it's Fortnite, but yesterday it was Minecraft, and tomorrow it'll be the next new thing. From Apple's perspective, they're not. I don't think they're stressing about how much money they're going to lose off of the 30% that Fortnite would make, because they can just move on to the next.
Well, and that's why
game.
I've always said it really, if anybody has standing in this, it's Microsoft and xCloud. And I'm really wondering, because that's the one where Apple might
and Stadia.
They have a hard time explaining themselves.
Yeah, but Microsoft
it
and
feels
Google
like they don't get it though. Like it feels less like malice to me and more like incompetence. And I don't mean that in like an accusatory tone. I don't think Apple understands, like at a deep level, that this is the next Netflix, because they allow Netflix, even though they have TV, they have iTunes, didn't bother them. They said Netflix was fine. There's Spotify, even though there's Apple Music. I really don't think they care about Apple Arcade enough. They'd make a ton of revenue off revenue sharing for whatever it's called now, Game Pass, but they just don't understand that it's a streaming service. They think it has to be apps, therefore it has to be in these little cubicles they've designed for apps, and they're missing the ability to think just one step beyond what they think they know.
Yeah. The biggest issue that Apple's not going to lose any money off of this, but their one weakness, and this is where TikTok kind of screwed the pooch and not figuring out how to best press an advantage, is that the government, there is a bipartisan push to get every company that makes, let's say, over $1 trillion under the heel of tighter legislation. And the only real arrow in the government's quiver against Apple is how it runs the App Store. So it's no surprise that Spotify jumped on board this really, really quickly, while a lot of people who feel as though they've been pushed around by Apple have been jumping on board of this, because they have grievances that Apple may have too much power over certain markets, and they want the government to be very, very aware of that. So this is it doesn't even matter who gets elected, who is our president next January. This is a bipartisan effort in the federal government and every state of state government, individual attorneys general. If Apple does not need this kind of distraction. Apple does not need this kind of fire to have to operate under if they're going to be in this very, very hostile environment in 2021 and 2022. And so Epic is kind of throwing this away. We'll still hear about it, but they could have really, really created a situation where Apple is going to be so sufficiently embarrassed, where Apple could have seen this as a chance of, we were largely unaware of the grievances of these large companies, but of course, once they made these grievances known, we were more than happy to adjust our long-standing App Store. So of course, we have no interest in controlling these markets, because look how fair we were when they came to us with these grievances, and now that opportunity has kind of been lost.
Let's take a little break. We have more to talk about, of course. Well, not much more, but I got to fill an hour, so we'll fill.
I had one last thing, Leo, before
yes,
we switch
please,
on.
please.
Yeah. So the other thing is, I think there's a part of this that is just happening to Apple. And what I mean by that is apps are going through what every form of media has gone through. Like we've gone from CDs to downloads on iTunes to every music you want to listen to for $10. We're doing that with magazines now, with Newsstand. We're doing that with Project X Cloud. Video games used to be $60 a cartridge, and now they're going to be $10 all you can play. Everything is going from scarcity to just ubiquity, and it's totally destroying the old business models. And that's happening to apps too. And there's a tremendous amount of frustration, especially from traditional developers who used to have a valuable, scarce product they could sell for a lot of money, and now everyone and their friend are making apps. And a lot of that frustration goes on to Apple and goes on to Google to some extent. And I think it would behoove Apple to just give them updates, give them demos, give them everything. I don't think it would change much materially because the market is going to go mainstream. There's no stopping that. But it would alleviate a lot of the contention between Apple and developers. And I don't think it would cost Apple anything except a little bit of complexity along the way.
Yeah. I lately have been saying this thesis, and I don't know how well taken it is. A few years ago, I got a lot of people mad at me by saying, get over it, physical media is dead. And I think it's, over time, I've been proven right. But people hated that. No, I love my Blu-ray or my
It's
CD.
a nerd thing now. Physical media is vinyl, and people like me and
it's
Andy
never going to go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want your comic books, but
we like freedom, man. That's what we like.
But I think there's another step happening here in this exact move away from physical to digital. There's a step happening, and it's starting first with games where your games are just streaming. Your whole library is in the cloud, whether you're doing it Stadia's way where you buy the whole game but you play it, or you're doing it Microsoft's way where you have a subscription. I mean, honestly, it's really interesting that the main way Microsoft wants you to buy the new Xbox is by paying a $35 a month subscription to all of the games. And, well, we'll throw in the Xbox. Actually, if you do the math, it's actually something like $40 cheaper than buying the Xbox outright. Because I think they see this is the future, but it's not just of gaming right now. But ultimately, that's why I really think Apple's Silicon, as much as I'm excited about it, is a little retro. It's the notion that all the power needs to be on your desktop, whereas really the power is moving to this cloud. And the device is kind of irrelevant. And I feel like that's kind of where we're headed.
You're right. But I think Apple's making a smarter bet because I think some people are going to do thin client. And I think Apple's going to do edge computing where they combine really powerful local devices to handle everything that the cloud will never be great. Like I think the cloud is great at doing all of this heavy lifting, but I think you're still going to want high performance for things like privacy and machine learning and other things locally. And if you can have not very expensive, really powerful edge computing, you'll beat out just a dumb thin client.
Well, and somebody told me on this on Twitter, I think, and I wish I could give them credit, but I can't remember who it was. But I think this is also an excellent point, which is Apple's Silicon is ultimately flexible. It isn't a desktop processor. It's a mobile processor. It's a tablet processor. It's a desktop processor.
And Swift was designed to scale across from the silicon all the way up to the operating system.
So what it really does is puts Apple in this marvelous position where they can make the chip be exactly what it needs to be at any given platform.
Yeah.
And that
10 cores in an AirPod, Leo.
Yeah.
10 cores in an AirPod up to a Mac Pro.
So that may, in the long run, be the real strategy is here. They may say, yeah, desktop may be dying. Doesn't matter because we're going to have a platform that works everywhere. Yeah. And for those people who need the power and 18 GPUs and 100 CPUs, we can do that. But for those of you who want a thin client so you can play, see where Apple's losing out? And they really need to get their stuff together. They don't have very good cloud services, do they? They can't do gaming in the cloud. It's Google, it's Microsoft, it's Amazon. Those three.
But they can give you the best experience if they stop being so blind to this future of streaming. And maybe I'm misunderstanding them, but if they stop acting this way to the future of streaming, they could have like their traditional thing, but you can get the best experience for Xbox on your iPhone.
Right. Well, there's only one other company. We were talking about this on Sunday, Facebook, who has this. I mean, clearly they have the ability to scale globally. They have servers everywhere. They could conceivably do it, but could Apple credibly put together a cloud presence to rival Google, Microsoft, and Amazon.
We'll just use Amazon and Microsoft like they're doing
or
now.
just use them.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that Apple has the financial firepower to accomplish absolutely anything that they decide is a priority for the company. That is not an exaggeration. If they wanted,
I don't think you can throw money at some problems. You could have $700 billion. You can't necessarily solve this because you need talent. You need, it's there's some scarce things.
They can hire. They've had a good practice in hiring away talent for. They did not have. Apple was not a health company, but they hired away some of the top researchers, the top people who understand hardware design for this sort of thing. Again,
but that doesn't get you there either, Andy, because those people are now alone in a vacuum instead of with their big teams that they were with that were focused on all that. So I don't see Apple like taking over health.
Well, no, not taking over. They don't have to take it over. They can, but they can have, as we have seen, they can take over a segment of the health market that is interesting to them, or they think they can do something interesting with, and they wouldn't necessarily have to build out the server hardware that their competitors need, because those competitors, again, they are in the business of selling computing power, so they would be more than happy to sell to rent stuff to Apple's launch. I realize that this is just an opinion. I can't back this. It's not the sort of thing that can be backed up by statistics or facts, but I do believe that Apple has demonstrated that they have had a good track record of entering a market that they've had no prior visible experience with absolute juggernauts who seem to have ruled this entire market and cleaned.
But don't you think they've thrown every penny they could at cloud and still don't have a very credible offering?
Well, they don't have a good idea. We don't. The Google Cloud Services is not Google Drive. It's not Google Music, and it's not even necessarily YouTube. It really is computational power. It really is. They can. It's one thing to take 30% of what apps are selling for. It's another thing to be the machinery for pretty much every intensive computing task that needs to scale infinitely globally, and that's why Amazon is doing so incredibly well. That's why IBM is doing IBM, Microsoft, and Google are doing so incredibly well, because it's what they're essentially doing is they are taking like a fraction of a penny off of every dollar that's transacted on the internet at this point. And so
I don't think Microsoft wants to be a cloud gaming giant. It's just, hey, we got Azure.
It's a really
demonstration.
But they're so smart.
It's also what the publishers really, really want, because especially with gaming, gaming companies, publishers feel almost intense pain every time someone buys a secondhand copy of a game. And even though it's a 3-year-old game that's kind of a back title at this point. This is a user that was not going to buy it for $70, wherever the current list price is. The idea of making sure that people are not owning this content that they're playing with means that when I get the $70 out of this person, that is one sale that will never ever corrupt any other sales that keep on going. All the way to the high dream of, I'm going to make this person continue to pay us money every single month. The idea of like old people's memories of, hey, look, I bought this Super Nintendo cartridge and I saved up and now I own this cartridge, and hey, look, I can now play this cartridge with my kids. Dead and gone. They're offended that, hey, look, you should not be playing Super Mario World 3D with your kids. Your kids should have to buy another copy of Super Mario World rather than putting this cartridge back in. So they're serving the needs of their customers. Their customers are not the game players. The customers are the game publishers. That's what Apple's missing out on with gaming.
Actually, Evil IRC in our chat room passed along an article from May of this year in your protocol. Some of the world's best cloud talent is assembling in an unlikely place, Apple. The quantity and quality of the new hires has caused a stir in the tight-knit cloud community and could indicate that Apple is finally getting serious about building tech infrastructure on a par with companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. So you're right. Maybe they are making those acquisitions. They hired Michael Crosby, who's a Docker guru, Aaron Gupta from AWS, Maxim Pavlenko from AWS, and Francesc Campoy, who is ex-Googler, will be working on Kubernetes. So maybe Apple does have aspirations in that in those quarters.
Or maybe it'll be like the car, where they're gonna hire away a lot of really great executives who think that they're about to make the next best thing,
right.
But then 3 or 4 years later, that project that you were working on, it never officially existed.
It's gonna be a watch app. Sorry. Let's take a break. We got a great panel. Lory Gill, managing editor of imore.com. Did you see Micah's purple wig? I thought
I did.
Yeah, we thought, oh my God,
It was so good.
Yes, it's Lory with a beard. But now you're not purple anymore, so
he can have it.
He can have it. He can have that wig. Andy Anako also here from WGBH in Boston, and Rene Ritchie from youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. Do we need a brand for that? Double R?
Double R. I was going to say that the podcast to do with Georgia should have been GNR, but then I think Axl Rose would sue us.
GNR. I like it.
Impressive. How long have you had the shelf tchotchke behind you? Like the custom logo shelf tchotchke.
Oh, he's had that a while, yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah, a couple of months. Yeah, it's the same people who made the iMore Hall of Fame Awards. I just love their work.
It's really nice.
Back to them. Yeah.
How's that new podcast going with Georgia? That's awesome.
She's
launched
so smart.
last week,
it's
right?
like I'll say something and she'll be like, well, that's because the human brain works this way. And then I'll just shut up for 20 minutes.
That's a nice mix, actually.
To me.
The superficial tech geek meets the deep thinking psychotherapist. It's great. Mm-hmm. It's a natural.
Like I'm happy with it.
You're not a superficial tech geek, believe me. I'm just teasing.
I try.
Our show today is brought to you by, quite literally, by CashFly. That's our CDN, our Content Delivery Network. And CashFly's been around since 1999, but we've been using it practically since we started back in the 2000s. I would say we've probably been using CashFly for a dozen years, more maybe. When we first started Twit in the first couple of years, it was a real challenge to figure out how to get it to you so you could listen to the shows. Download it from a web page, that's fine, but HTTP streaming is weak, and it wasn't always guaranteed. The speeds could vary. Our servers were choking. So then we went to BitTorrent, and we would have to beg people on the show, please seed our content so others can listen. That's when Matt Levine of CashFly called me up and said, Leo, let us help. And I'm so glad they did. Now, we've been doing this on CashFly. I guess we were early beta customers of their storage optimization system. We've stored our content on the CashFly servers for a very simple reason. CashFly, the idea of a CDN is they have servers all over the globe, and your content is cached on those local servers. See those dots? So that when somebody, say, from Perth wants to download the show, they don't have to download it from North America. They download it from CashFly servers near Perth. Means they get it faster, means less bandwidth is consumed on the global internet. It's just good all around. No buffering, no problems, no headaches. So we really like that. It works really well for us. But there's one little problem getting our show to that server in Perth. And those are sad to say, the cache misses. When the first person in Perth tries to download that show, CashFly has to go out to your origin, let's say Amazon S3, and download it over the public internet. That's a delay for your customer. It also will cost you money because Amazon charges for egress, and it can actually severely increase the costs. So we have been doing this for a while, and this is what CashFly is now offering everybody, storage optimization system. You store, instead of on your origin, you store your content on CashFly's servers. That keeps your data closer to your customers without neighbors or competitors' traffic reducing your customers' experience. You'll save huge, maybe as much as thousands a month by shielding your origin. And because there are no longer any cache misses, your download speeds are dramatically improved. Not to mention the reduction in data transfer out fees. 100% cache hit ratio means everything just works better. And that's one of the real benefits of being on CashFly. Another benefit, they're rapidly expanding those servers. They just added 6 new pops in South America. They're serving 10 times the amount of traffic in Latin America over the last year. And so they're responding. And that's one of the things I love about CashFly. This is a company that really is always building to make their service better. They've not only maintained, but dramatically improved their performance in the region while taking on a much higher traffic load. So it doesn't matter where your listeners are, North America, Latin America, the Caribbean, Europe or the Middle East, Asia Pacific, Australia. Their goal is to deliver content quickly and reliably, even in those hard-to-reach regions. You can expect consistency, you can expect performance, and because of their reliable throughput and scalability, you can expect performance up to 5 times faster than other CDNs. And SOS has CacheFly's 100% uptime SLA guarantee and its industry-leading global performance. So you'll eliminate, because you're coming in over the CacheFly backbone right to that server, you'll eliminate those cache misses. They're delivered 5 times faster than from your origins. Software goes in faster. Games are played faster. It's the future. CacheFly is also a great corporate partner. We really love these guys because they care about their community. They've donated over $50,000 to World Central Kitchen. They're serving 300,000 warm meals to people struggling during these difficult times. Another reason to love Matt Levine and the CacheFly team. 100% uptime. CacheFly is your go-to. Want to know how much you could save with CacheFly? Just go to twit.cachefly.com. Bring your bill and your usage trends. See if you're overpaying by 20% or more, and let CacheFly show you what they can do for you. No high pressure, no sales, just information. Twit.cachefly.com. We feel so fortunate to have them as a partner, bringing you our shows very, very quickly. There's another Apple acquisition. They just bought ScoutFM. Did any of you use ScoutFM? You can't use it now.
No.
They shut it down. Nope. Scout.
Did not.
Actually, they didn't just buy it. It was earlier this year. Scout was a podcast app that put together a stream for you. So normally what you would do is you'd figure out what you want to listen to, like this show, and then you'd subscribe to it, and then it'd be on your device. Scout, you just say, I'm interested in technology and this and that, and it was more like radio, right? Custom curated content. So it was kind of like a radio program. So I thought we didn't know about this acquisition till now, Apple Insider revealing it. What do you think? Does this mean Apple will do? Here's my speculation. They've got new Beats channels. What if they did a Beats podcast channel?
Like instead of talk radio?
Yeah. Do they?
Interesting.
What are Apple's podcast ambitions? I'm asking for a friend. I'm asking for a friend, Lory.
They were kind of the progenitor of an app catcher, right? So they don't need to have ambitions because they kind of started the whole thing in terms of having one place where you can download and listen to or stream podcasts. They're there. So yeah, I think I like this idea of what you're talking about. Live podcasting. Is that kind of what you're talking about, where there's a DJ that then introduces you to?
No, I don't. I think it's more generated by an engine, but because it watches what you listen to. It's the TikTok of podcasting or the YouTube of podcasting. That doesn't mean that's how Apple's going to use it.
Isn't that already what's happening with podcasts, though? It's using an algorithm to recommend other podcasts similar to what you're
but you still would have to subscribe. So the idea is you would tune to Lory's channel, I guess. I never used it. It's gone now. They turned it off immediately. You would go to Lory's channel, and based on the initial seeding that you did with stuff you liked, not necessarily shows, just topics, and then what you could listen to or what you would skip, they would provide. Because I guess Scout was trying to solve the problem. It's like Beats. Yeah, like Beats.
Like what Beats was when it first started. Before Apple bought it, that's how you started it. Yeah. Okay.
And I thought that this was to solve a problem that I don't have. I know what I want to listen to, but I think most people, especially if they're new to podcasts, don't. And they know they want something like this. And so it's a recommendation engine that doesn't just show you and say, subscribe to this. It plays them. And you start listening.
This thing that happened like the last WWDC, and they started doing recommendations for episodes. So like the biggest problem with podcasts previously is, unlike YouTube, they couldn't recommend individual episodes. So for example, if I watched the Twit WWDC special in YouTube, I would see Marquez Brownlee's and mine and a bunch of other similar content that I might also want to watch. But in Apple Podcasts, and almost every podcast client, I think with the exception of Breaker at this point, was I would just see other shows. Like there was no way to listen to the MacBreak Weekly episode on WWDC, the Twit episode, the talk show episode, and the discovery wasn't there. And they started making a discovery engine previously, and I think their hope here is to decompile podcasts into episodic content that they can then use ML to assemble into a playlist and get people listening longer. And they'll face the same problems YouTube and Facebook have had, in that they will very, very quickly start to extremize people, like red pill people, if they're not very, very careful. Like with conspiracy podcast after conspiracy podcast. But the goal, I think, is to make podcasting in general more discoverable, so people find more content, more episodes they like.
That I'm all for, but the last thing I want is yet another algorithmic recommendation engine. It's
agree.
Not gone well.
Leo, I'm so tired of being recommended things. I want to be the one that chooses what to watch, and it's the internet is closed off to me because every service is recommending what it thinks I want to watch. And I want that, but I also want to just open the door and see what's inside. And there's like no way to get to that without signing out of your account and then just going, okay, what's on the internet today? So I don't want to be recommended things anymore, you know?
How would you find them though?
Yep.
I'm just
so much
digging
stuff
around.
I bet, though, that you want your friends to say things. Like if I said, oh, have you seen Raised with Wolves yet? That would be okay, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what we want.
But
we don't like these engines.
Well, why haven't they done that? They've had years.
Why haven't they done...
What, have Tim Cook call me up and say, hey, Leo?
No, I'm friends with... I'm Apple Music or whatever. Friends.
Well, they
with
did
Lory
do that.
Andy and Leo.
They did.
No, but they didn't. They did garbage. They didn't do like Lory, Leo, and Andy listen to this one show that you've never listened to. Therefore, we're going to show you that your friends are listening to this. You know, like high probability matches based on my friends and not based on.
It's still mechanical, right, Lory? It's still not as appealing as if you're just sitting around.
Because that's the thing too. Is like, Leo, you might watch, you know, a bunch of daytime talk shows, and I'm never going to be interested in daytime talk shows. So
not to listen to me on that regard. Right?
Yeah.
And this is the missing piece. I know you. So I'm not going to tell you about daytime talk shows. I may like them. Like, for instance, I'm embarrassed that I like that yacht show. And I would never tell you to watch that. But I do know you like kind of dark sci-fi. So I might say you should watch Raised with Wolves. Because so it's a two-way recommendation. Yeah. It's something I like, but I also, it's like setting you up on a date. It's also, this is something you would like.
We should use the Matrix, plug people into the machines and let the people machine nodes pick the content for us.
There's no like machine is going to replace a human being.
I would love to have just an on-off button for recommendations where you can just, you know, you open up Netflix and you are, you know, you've looked through all of the recommendations and all the things that they've put into they've, you know, aggregated into the different categories based on what they think that, you know, what the thing thinks that you're going to like. And then you go, you know what, today I'm going to just explore. And then you turn that off. And then all you're getting is literally just the stuff that exists. You can filter it by most popular. You can filter it by alphabetical. You can filter it by the date, like what year it came out. And then you're the one exploring. The Criterion channel does not have a recommendation aspect to it at all. So if you're in the Criterion channel app, they just put up the movies and then you're in charge of deciding what you want to watch. And I love it because there's dozens and dozens of movies I never thought I'd even be interested in, but I just click on it. Oh, look, there's a little blurb about this. It's a noir movie. I don't watch noir movies usually, but here I go. Now I'm watching this noir movie. And now I'm really interested in noir because I watched this one movie. That doesn't happen anymore because it's all being given back to us. I get to the point where my streaming services, I know everything that's being recommended to me, and it just keeps re-recommending it to me because I keep re-watching the movies that are recommended to me. Yeah, so it like narrows it down to the point where there's nothing, there's no discovery left at all.
Yeah.
And they changed the poster art now to trick us into watching it a second time. Like if you go to Netflix or you go to iTunes, you're like, oh, that's new. No, it's not new. You just changed the poster. I almost fell for that.
Oh, that's what happens because Lisa keeps saying, let's watch that I said, we watched that last week. No, let's every week.
Yeah, they do it on purpose to get our clicks.
Now I understand.
It's maddening because they're A/B testing to see which one gets the most clicks, but all it results in is you thinking you got new stuff when you don't. It's horrible.
Yeah, my problem is more with music apps on as far as recommendations go. Where I think Apple does this. I think Google does this. I think Spotify is the best at not doing this in terms of big streaming services. But the difficulty of finding the thing that I want to. I don't care that this is it's pumpkin spice jazz for based on your location. Like I don't care. Like and here's mellow hello 70. I don't care. I want to hear the live David Bowie album that I read about online and added to my playlist because I wanted to listen to it. But the other thing, and this is something that I happened to be thinking about a lot over the weekend, is that one of the failures of the user interfaces or the basic concepts of these content services is that it's even email clients, its whole modus operandi is to deny us the feeling that we've finished something, that it's all optimized towards let's give us an infinite playlist and let's not give the user one album and then everything stops after that album ends. That the brain chemical that says, hey, wow, that was a really good album. Now I'm going to turn to the next thing I wanted to do in my life. I was even thinking about this with email, where I think that one of the nicest features that I would love to add to my email client is that at least to have one alternative mode or user interface where it only ever shows me the most recent 20 emails, where when I tab into email, I get 20 emails. I can say, oh, okay, I have finished this thing known as reading and dealing with 20 emails, and now I can move on to the next thing in my life. The reason why email becomes such a quagmire is because I get hundreds and hundreds of emails, and it seems as though I've never done with it.
Heymail, I hear it's wonderful.
Heymail
from Basecamp.
Solution.
Yeah. Are you using that, Lory? You said you were using that?
I tried it. It's not for me. And I'm not saying it's not great. For a lot of people, it's a good thing. And Andy, honestly, it kind of sounds like it might be right up your alley, but that's not how I do email, so it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that I do think there's a happy completed task chemical in our brain that lets us take pride in having finished a job, whether it's, hey, look, we actually caught, killed, and cooked and ate dinner. That goes back for tens of thousands of years. That Reddit will always just have you scroll, and then, oh wow, it's now 3 a.m. and I've been doing nothing but scrolling through Reddit.
And I think that's something that doesn't work.
Yeah, well, I just think that that's something that needs to be paid attention to. And Lory, you're right that there's so many. I think that so many services are based on adding to our distraction and keeping us engaged to the deficit of keeping us happy with the choices that serving us the choices that we've made. That is one of the reasons why I do all my music, all my media on a local server, because it will never, ever, ever, based on the fact that I listened to this David Bowie album that I bought last week, try to slide and, how about some Freddie Mercury?
I have begged repeatedly Culture Code to make an app called Thing, where I can only ever put in one thing, and I cannot add to my things unless I have completed that thing. And thus far, they seem way more interested in the plural things. It's just, but that's how those platforms all work. They want to keep people watching for as long as possible because that makes them the most revenue possible. We have conflicting. The business model conflicts with our internal humanity.
And it really does. We need to remind ourselves that this is no accident. That it really we cluck our tongues at the makers of gambling games, gambling hardware. That it always makes sure that it gives us sort of a minor win, so that we'll keep on playing. And that has to give us lights at a certain point to make sure that we're just being distracted from the passage of time. And so, isn't that horrible that these casinos are trying to take money from people who from people who don't know how much they're being manipulated. Where do you read that? Oh, on Reddit. I was on Reddit for 4 hours last night reading all about stuff like this. I love Reddit, by the way. I'm just saying that part of it is like having to make sure that I maintain a sense of time when I'm reading about stuff that is also research of news and stuff that I wouldn't have come across
that's
otherwise.
my excuse.
But also it's easy to.
That's what I'm doing. I'm researching when I'm up at 3 in the morning, scrolling through Reddit. I'm looking for a story. And you know what? I'm sure this is the case for you too. I find enough stories that it's completely justified.
I did find a video of a group of capybaras eating a pumpkin.
There you go.
I was very glad that I'm not joking. It just made me it's been a very bad week for a lot of people who like, freedom and justice and like, I don't think I will like watch the video of John Oliver telling us that we're all doomed for 20 minutes. I think I'm going to watch how happy these capybaras are to patiently wait for this. There you go. Well, that's not the one. I'll try to find the one.
Apparently, they do this a lot. This is not even the one you were talking about.
and they were patiently waiting for this like immense pumpkin to be rolled out by the staff, and then they're sort of lined up around waiting their turns to eat that. Is
it this one?
I think it's the same zoo, and the watermelon one is good too.
Now we've gone down the capybara hole.
Yeah.
You see, I'm making us scroll into all kinds of different territory instead of like getting to the picks of the week and stuff. I'm just as guilty as anybody else.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind, but I'm gonna jump ahead to the actual. Apparently, the half of this video is them getting ready for the ceremonial consumption.
They're so cute. They look like big mice.
Oh, now that you say that, I don't like them anymore.
Oh no, they're so cute.
I feel cute. What do you think they'd be cuddly or is that
Pikachus?
No, I don't think they'd be cuddly at all, but they are cute. Look at those faces.
They are rodents.
They're like kangaroo faces.
Yeah.
Lucy Bellwood is drawing a comic of capybaras as seafarers in the 1800s, and it's like, hi, I only have $2,500 in my checking account right now, but I can probably cash in some long-term stuff and give you more money to finish this because
the funniest thing is it seems like this is a regular event in Japan.
Yeah,
because they're surrounded by tourists.
If you had a bunch of capybaras in your zoo and you knew how adorable they were eating like thick.
How did we miss this when we were in Japan?
Melons.
The ceremonial feeding of the watermelon to capybaras.
And the video ends too soon. I want it to end with like it like breaks apart into a couple
satisfied
pieces
belch.
and they eat all the watermelon. And one of them winds up walking away with like the watermelon like a helmet,
or maybe just a capybara leaning back and its haunches patting its tummy in satisfaction.
Yeah.
That was good. Okay, well, you're right. It did end too soon. But fortunately, thanks to the fabulous recommendation engine on YouTube, now we can watch a hippo.
Now you can watch a hippo
eating a watermelon. Also in Japan.
Is it a house hippo?
Hippos are also pretty cool.
Yeah, they are.
They seem pretty primitive.
Until they went through your Snickers bar.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you now as a South African, Leo. They are not. See, when I watched Jurassic Park for the first time, Jurassic Park was a completely bad movie only because you don't fear the carnivores. You fear the big herbivores. Nothing kills more people than the hippos. Anyone who lives in the Southern Hemisphere will tell you that. Crocodiles, lions, the hippos are what destroy more humans than the venomous snakes and everything. I fear those hippos.
You're actually exactly right.
Yes.
Hippos are more deadly than sharks.
We were not allowed near the water unless we had armed accompaniment when I was a child.
And it's not that they'll eat you; it's just that they might roll on you, right?
They're grumpy. They'll charge.
Those jaws. Yeah, look at that.
Hungry hippos. 500 people die every year in hippo attacks. It says in this post from CBS.com. Even the alligators are afraid of them.
Forget the velociraptors. It was those brontosaurus or brachiosauruses, whatever, that those people should have been running for their lives.
And unlike many animals who are afraid of humans, hippos particularly don't like humans. They go after them.
They're tanks and they're salty.
20 miles an hour. Imagine a 5-ton hippo running at you at 20 miles an hour. Now dodge.
For the benefit of like listeners in the coming week, I will say Capybara eat huge pumpkin ASMR posted by the Nagasaki Biopark.
Oh my God.
That's the one that I've actually like downloaded with Downey, because sometimes you just need, it's a bad day, but you got your phone with you. It's like, I want to both hear and watch Capybaras like skeletonize a pumpkin in 10 minutes.
Here's an ASMR, but I'll turn on the sound for this one of a capybara eating sand.
Ooh, that can't be good for them. Well, I mean, capybaras.
This is apparently a tame capybara because he's wearing a leash. So maybe they do make good pets.
Style.
I'm just going to let this run underneath the next ad. So.
Crunch.
It's making me hungry.
If we took the sand out, it wouldn't be crunchy then, would it?
This is from Crazy Cody's Creatures. That sounds good. Our show today is brought to you.
We'll have more news next week, everybody.
There's not a lot to talk about. I think next week there'll be more.
We're enjoying our time.
I bought my mom. I said, Mom, would you like an Apple Watch? She said, yes. Who knew? Because of the fall protection. We were talking about this for seniors. Yeah, so I got one for her. And then,
did you get her the SE?
No, I thought, I'm going to get her the full thing so she has the blood oximeter and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, it's not much more to get it's like $60-$70 more to get the full one.
No, but you're a good son, Leo.
Well, I'm going to be an even better son, because then I said, well, wait a minute. Can your phone go to iOS 14? She said, no. I said, what do you have, an iPhone 6? She said, yeah. I said, are you attached to the headphone jack? She said, no. So now.
Well, you're not going to be.
Yeah, because you're going to lose it. So now I'm thinking I'm going to send her an iPhone 12 to go along with that new watch. Because she loves her iPhone. And we don't know yet, but the rumor is the screen on the Max is going to be pretty big, right?
Right.
I think she loves her iPad. Yeah. 7?
6.7.
6.7. Mm-hmm. Nice. So I'm thinking, yeah, Mom should,
But
You only
even
got
if
one
she
mom.
didn't want another iPhone, family setup would have made it possible for you to get her that Apple Watch.
But she has
That's my favorite part about this stuff.
Oh, I agree with you.
So
I think that's really great. But then I'd have to send the watch to me, set it up, and send it to her. Actually, I probably should have done that. But
she's going to be FaceTiming you anyway.
we're going to. In fact, I'm convinced the whole reason she accepts this stuff is because then it gives her an excuse to spend a lot of time on the phone with me. Okay, Mom. Now, and it's stressful, as you might imagine. It's a little stressful for me. Do you like? Are we happy?
She teaches you how to sew masks.
Calm.
So I think it's a good back and forth there.
That and the capybara chewing sand in the background have really settled my. That can't be the capybara. Oh no! Now it's just a dog and a capybara playing with one another. Apparently, YouTube has a considerable number of capybara videos.
They're cute.
They have a considerable number of everything, Leo.
That's right.
This is why I can't really complain that much about the recommendation engine, at least of YouTube, because sometimes it'll surface something like, "Oh, I was really sad until I saw that beautiful animal. Until I saw that beaver eating that head of celery.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, so crunchy in the little hands. Oh.
You cheered me up. Do we like the Series 6?
Oh yeah, I've been having a lot of fun.
It's nice and bright, right?
What I'm really enjoying is sleep tracking, and that's something that I was never even interested in. But the battery is so good that I'm not worried about running out of battery health at the end of the day or through the night. And I've been tracking my sleep. I found out I wake up a lot more often than I thought I did. It's not a concern. I sleep well.
I do too. Yeah, that's.
But it's so interesting to just watch that.
Mine is shaming me.
Are you using is there an Apple sleep tracker, or are you using a third-party sleep tracker?
I'm using the Apple sleep tracker, just the sleep in the health app, and shows me.
I'm unclear on this because it just says it'll set an alarm, schedule your and bedtime reminders. But you're saying
that's the bedtime feature.
Yeah.
So then in the health app, when you open the health app, you can add sleep as one of your health tracking features. And if you have your Apple Watch connected as the thing to track you while you sleep, if you have to actually enable your Apple Watch to be the thing that tracks your sleep. Otherwise, all it does is give you the information of when you set your phone down and whether or not you pick up your phone in the middle of the night. So you want to make sure that it's tracking from your Apple Watch. That's the device.
So I see here it says set up sleep. Your devices can help you get a better sleep. I wish that were true. In fact, my devices do the exact opposite. And understand your sleep patterns, sleep schedule, sleep mode, wind down, Apple Watch. Next. Set a sleep goal.
They can shame you with how little sleep you're getting.
Show my phone if you would, John. Set a sleep goal. 8 hours is probably all I can hope for. And then let's see here. Next, this is why I didn't do this. I got to set a bedtime and wake up time. All right, that's fine. I'm gonna go to bed at 10, but I'm not gonna wake up at 6. That's nuts. How about? Can I wake up at 8:30? Okay, let's add that. Okay.
That's definitely more than 8 hours.
That's 10 and a half hours. Yeah. Okay. You can have a different schedule for every day of the week, it says. Why? There's no difference in any day. Okay. Sleep mode can simplify your lock screen. No. Tracks. Oh, here's the part you were talking about.
Okay.
Traps.
This is where you want. Yeah.
Enable. Yeah. Sweet dreams.
So let me just warn you that if you are wearing your Apple Watch and you're letting the sleep mode or bedtime mode set the alarm for you on your watch, make sure that you have it'll tap you silently if your watch audio is turned off. The first time I did that, I almost slept through my alarm. I'm not even kidding you. When I finally woke up, it was 5 minutes after my alarm had gone off, and I dreamed, I'm not kidding you, I dreamed that I was borrowing someone else's watch and their alarm was going off and I couldn't shut their alarm off.
Oh, you must have been so tired.
For 5 minutes.
Don't let them get into your head, Lory. That's what they want.
That's hysterical. I love just tracking, like when it just kind of notices when you've rolled over and like you've kind of woken up a little bit. It lets you know you've been asleep for 2 minutes, you were asleep for 4 hours, you were asleep for 5 minutes, and it's all that kind of like tossing and turning that you do all night. It'll just like lay that out for you. It's not good to know this.
I don't have anything to use it for, but if I needed to talk to the doctor about why I was sleepy all the time, I'd have that information just already there from the last 6, 8, 12 months for however long I do it.
Like last night, I fell asleep last night. I woke up and my watch went, "Oh, congratulations, you slept 8 hours for the first time." I was like, "Shut up."
Shut up. Jeez.
It's like the early days of the turn by turn where it's like redirecting. Oh, you missed the turn. Redirecting. It's like it's so disappointed in me.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that the Apple Watch is Minnesota nice? Like, oh, good for you. You did 30 minutes of activity.
Or as Aunt Pruitt would say, bless your heart.
Yes.
Bless Aunt.
I thought
battery life, though, for me is astonishing. Like I put it on at 7 o'clock and I had to repeat it. I couldn't believe it. I put it on at 6 or 7 a.m. I used the sleep tracking through the night and it worked until midnight the next day. Like I was getting 36 hours repeatedly out of the Series 6. That was only for like the minimal testing I talked about last week, but it's still like that. And I don't think it's going to last. I'm not going to count on it. I'm not going to get used to it. That's its plan. But I really appreciate it while I have it.
I can tell you from my perspective, I've fully loaded the Apple Watch. I just transferred from my 5 to the 6. So it's got all of the apps that I use all of the time, and I work out for about 45 minutes, 5 days a week. So I get almost exactly, well, I guess 24 wouldn't be the right way to put it. So I put my Apple Watch on at 7 o'clock in the morning. I wear it all day. I sleep all the way through the night with it on. I wake up in the morning and it's down to somewhere between 10 and 15%. It's usually about 13%. I throw it on my charger while I drink my coffee, read the news, and then that's between 6 and 7. And then by 7 o'clock in the morning, it's at 94, somewhere between 92 and even as much as 100%.
Wow.
That's every single day. And then I go and work out and the percentage drops for a few minutes. So I'll throw it on my charger just while I shower it's not really even necessary to do that though. But if I wanted to make sure that I was totally fully charged, I can get that extra couple of percents that I lose from the workout.
You're saying if you just charge it every day while you shower, that's enough to keep it fully charged all the time?
If you charge it for an hour, you will be almost 100% charged. Like I think it's like, I would guess it's like about 90% charge in an hour. So if I'm at 10%, it's at 100%.
All right. I'm gonna have to wear this to bed tonight. I don't like wearing jewelry in bed.
You got to get yourself a braided loop because it's so comfortable.
Okay.
Yes, that was the trick for me. Is that I put on the braided loop. It's like putting a ribbon around your wrist, like you barely feel it.
Oh, okay.
Is the weaving staying intact for you? I've seen some people post pictures of, hey, wow, $100, and now look, this thing is pulled apart a little bit. Is it?
It could, maybe somebody who has like wider hand girth might stretch it out a little more, and maybe that's why they're seeing the looseness. But I haven't seen that happen at all. I've had it on for 2 weeks now that I've had it, and no stretching whatsoever. But yarn
I'm
fraying. He was talking about fraying.
Oh, fraying. Oh, yeah. No,
I'm like not necessarily fraying, but like imagine like where one of the imagine like when you pull on like one of the knots in a sweater and just like a little like loop of it just sort of like pulls out.
Like a snag out. So that would be if they accidentally. Right. I bet that would happen. It's yarn, so that is gonna happen. That's not an unusual thing. So yeah, if I snag it on something, I could imagine that would happen. It's made out of the kind of material that would cause that for sure.
I had a truck driver call me on the radio show. He said, I often have to stick my arm in between the two trucks to separate them, and it just is hell on watches. I keep breaking the glass. Is there anything I could wear that wouldn't break? I said, well, sapphires. Oh, no, I got sapphire. I said, well, I think you're out of luck. I don't think you can. I'd stick my hand in there, and sometimes it pinches the watch there, and maybe you shouldn't put your hand in there.
I have a recommendation.
I have to. Yes?
For if you have that come up again, there are watch or band makers that make rugged cases. I'm going to recommend Catalyst because they're my favorite, but they're not the only one. But there's case makers that make rugged cases that are band makers that also have a protective cover for the glass. So that would be what I would tell them.
Excellent tip. Thank you. Our show today brought to you by our good friends, the people who pay for this whole facility. LastPass. LastPass is what we use at TWiT to protect ourselves. Employees at home no longer under the careful eye of our IT department. And there's all sorts of things people could do. They're on their own networks. You don't want employees, for instance, and they share passwords, but you don't want to share the passwords by texting somebody or sending it in a clear text in an email. That's the log into my QuickBooks account. You're just going to send it, in a text message? No. That's why we use LastPass. LastPass lets employees share passwords, keeping access to corporate data safe with their secure. Everything LastPass does is secure, starting with the password vault. LastPass gives every employee their own vault for storing every app and web login they use. They sign on with autofill, so it's actually more convenient. It's really nice to have a security tool that makes life better, and that's what LastPass does. It makes it easy and safe for employees. There's single sign-on. Employees love that. You just say yes on your phone. There's enterprise password management tools for you. For instance, the IT department has complete information on who's accessing what resources from where, so it makes you much more secure. LastPass surveyed 700 IT and security professionals across a big range of industries from financial services to IT to retail. Almost all of them, 82%, said their business had been exposed to a risk due to poor identity and access management. That's what LastPass does, but they do it right. So you can eliminate that risk. Things like multi-factor authentication, adding to the fingerprint or the face recognition, adding contextual factors like IP address or geolocation. LastPass makes it easy and more secure. And you can trust LastPass because they use AES 256-bit encryption to make sure your vault is safe, never decrypted anywhere except on device, iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux. They also protect your master password. It's never transmitted anywhere off your devices, not even to LastPass. They have no access to it. And should somebody get your vault, it's secured with PBKDF2, which means it's almost impossible to brute force it. SHA 256, salted hashes. They do all the stuff you've heard about, all the best practices in security. That's why I use LastPass. We're going to have a big LastPass event. It's coming out October 8th, a week from Thursday, 1 o'clock Pacific. We're going to have an attack and defense panel. We've got a couple of security pros on maybe even hackers, because it's Father Robert Balaser and Brian Chi on the attack side. They're going to come up with some attacks. And by the way, Brian's a great enterprise guy, so he'll know exactly what to do. And, Robert is, Mr. Black Hat. And then on the defense side, we're going to have Gerald Buchelt, who's been on several of our LastPass panels. He's the CISO for their parent company, LogMe, and so his job is really dealing with corporate security. He'll be joined by the security legend, Bruce Schneier. So they're going to be the defense team. So we're going to get Robert and Brian to come up with an attack, and then Bruce and Jerry are going to come up with a defense. This should be a lot of fun and a great educational experience. You'll learn exactly how hackers work and exactly what you can do to defend. That's October. I can't wait till that. That's October 8th, 1 p.m. Pacific. October is National Security Month. So what better time to talk about attack and defense? LastPass. Thank you, LastPass. #1 password manager in the world for good reason. Let LastPass securely manage your user's identity by letting your employees work efficiently without making your business vulnerable to cyber threats. LastPass.com/twit. LastPass.com/twit. We now return to the Capybara channel. No, we won't.
Later. After the work is done. That's the reward. Later.
Apple, according to a 9 to 5 Mac, iPhone 12 production is at full tilt, 24-hour operation, mandatory overtime, no time off at Foxconn. Actually, this comes from the South China Morning Post. Employee Wang Guofeng said overtime work had increased in summer. Most workers are allowed only to take 4 days off a month. You can earn $880 a month, and if you work at the factory for more than 90 days, there's a handsome amount of special pay. Another employee, surnamed Ma, said the company had started night shifts, production lines running 24 hours a day. We have been kept so busy for the past weeks because of the iPhone 12. So I guess that's exactly what we'd expect this time of year. It is encouraging. Yep. Rumors seem to have converged on the idea of 4 iPhone 12 models, count them, for an iPhone 12 mini, 5.4 inches.
I can't wait to hear what Lory thinks about this one. I've been waiting all week.
The mini, teeny, weeny. Because you like the SE.
I want it.
You like small phones.
I want it.
5.4 inches doesn't sound that small. I mean, the iPhone 4 was
it's smaller than the current SE.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. It's thin the way the original iPhone 4 was, but taller. So it's like skinny and long, but not as tall as the SE. Or the current SE. So it's kind of hitting that sweet spot for me, because it's going to be, if all of these rumors are true, it's going to have the almost edge-to-edge screen. We'll call it edge-to-edge screen. So the screen itself will be larger, but the case that it's in will be smaller, and that's pretty exciting for me.
Here are the hands of Marquez Brownlee simulating the size of the presumptive mini.
But those are ultimate Frisbee hands. We have no idea.
We have really no idea how big that is, yeah. There will be an iPhone 12, no adjective, an adjective-free iPhone 12 with a 6.1-inch OLED display, and then there'll be two 12 models with the OLED display, the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro, and then the one I think I'll get my mom, the 6.7-inch iPhone 12 Pro Max. So 4 different sizes. Will they announce them all at the same time? Will they be available all at the same time?
No.
Yes and no.
Yes to the first one, no to the second one.
Okay. So which will be delayed?
So there's a couple different reports. The ones that I choose not to believe is that Apple will put out the two 6.1-inch ones at the same time, just because the 6.1-inch assembly line, so to speak, is all good to go, and the new sizes are more problematic.
Right.
But the one that sounds more recent and more believable is that the iPhone 12 will come out first, almost immediately, like usual, and then there'll be a slight delay before the iPhone 12 Pro models. The Pro and the Pro Max hit, late
and
October.
will the Mini be
November.
available right away, or
Sounds like it.
does a Mini replace SE?
No, it's
No.
a higher price product. The Mini's like entry level.
Okay.
Sorry, the SE is entry level.
Okay.
Right. So it's not meant to be the low cost one. It's meant to be the small sized one.
Yeah, it'd be amazing if it were that size, but also had pretty much the same camera array as the iPhone 12. If it were no compromises, they basically just took all they did was said, well, it's inevitable that we're going to have to cut down the battery size, but other than that, we're giving you a top tier iPhone 12.
Again, we should emphasize that this is no one knows. This is leaks, speculation.
There were two good and bad rumors though yesterday about it. One, that it's going to have the same base storage, everything the same. But then there was this real sketchy rumor, and it's a real pet peeve of mine, that publications are publishing like this person on Twitter with no track record said. But they were saying that the processor might be lower powered because they didn't explain why, but they said there's a rumor the processor might be lower powered, and that would only make sense if the battery couldn't take spikes from a regular sized A14 because it's such a small battery. But I choose not to believe this until Apple tells me so.
Well, also, if it's a small phone with a small battery, you don't want to have short battery life, right? So,
brownouts. You don't want brownouts either. That's the bigger concern.
So 9 to 5 is saying that, in fact, the two base models, iPhone 12, will only have 2 cameras, and then there'll be 2 iPhones with the triple lens that we're used to. So it may not be the same
as the 11. The 11 has 2 cameras.
Right, exactly.
Right, so the Pros would be the one that have the triple
That's
camera.
Right. That's what makes them
stuff.
Pro.
Yeah.
Time of flight on the back of it, like there is on the iPad Pro? There will be on the Pros, okay.
The thing that
I also have
me
reason
was
to believe that just for size, the iPhone 12 mini might not have Face ID, but will instead have the Touch ID on the button. That I think it would make sense to. It's small, and that camera array would take up pretty much the entire
all of it,
front of it, right? So to mitigate that, the front-facing camera would not be a Face ID camera, but it would have a button Touch ID instead.
Yeah. There's also the problem of how do you if you are putting two cameras on the back of it on a really small phone, how do you set them up so that people aren't necessarily blocking them with their fingers accidentally? Is that enough room?
I do that now.
And are we to expect these all to be 5G phones? Yes, right?
Yes, except different kinds. So like the regular iPhones will be frequency range 1, which is the low and mid bands, everything up to sub 6, 7, 8, 9 sort of thing. And the Pros will be frequency range 2, which includes millimeter wave, 4G. I was originally not that excited about any of them because the delivery of millimeter wave is atrocious still. Like if you sneeze, your connection is gone, and there's just very little of it anywhere. So you have to live on the block and be outside on top of the antenna. But Sprint just announced N41, which is a great frequency range, mid-range, that does up to, I think, 1 gigabit per second and has very good coverage.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about the frequency range 1, which all the iPhones are going to have. And I still think millimeter wave is a waste of power and price at this point.
Yeah, I think it's really intended for business and some special
stadiums maybe.
Yeah. So you're in Montreal. Are you? You don't have Sprint, but will your carriers?
So we have low band 5G, which is like LTE plus 20% on a good day, but it should have better coverage. Like Daniel Bader says this so well, it should deliver on the promise of LTE for people in suburban and rural areas who are just always underserved. But our better frequencies have been postponed because of COVID. The auction was postponed till next year. So who knows how long it's going to take to get any of that now.
9 to 5 says the modems will be Qualcomm still, while Apple continues to work on their own silicon.
Yep.
That makes sense. This will be an A14, like in the new iPad, right?
Yep.
But not
Unless
Bionic.
it's the B14.
No, it's Bionic.
It's
well,
Bionic?
That's the rumor that there'll be a B14 in the Mini, but that's an outlandish rumor still. But the A14 is still Bionic. It's the same architecture. It's slight improvement in performance, a really good improvement in efficiency. They're using 5 nanometer. I did a 24-minute long video, Leo, so please cut me off if I get
No, this is good. No, we got the
detailed
expert.
on this.
Yeah.
But it's down to 5 nanometers, which is a 1.8 times transistor gain. Apple's not using all of that as far as we can tell. So they are shrinking the package as well, which is going to make it much more efficient. And they're spending their transistor budget smartly. They are increasing the CPU and they're increasing the GPUs. They're better performance. The GPUs are new architecture. They've got a 16-core neural engine now. The original one, I think, was 2 cores, and then they went to 8 cores. Now it's 16 cores, much better machine learning accelerators, and they're using all this IP for better blocks to do dedicated tasks on the chip. So you should once again just, because one of the problems, and I'll just digress for a second, is that a lot of companies are hitting Moore's law hard, and you're seeing NVIDIA spend enormous amounts of voltage to increase power, which is just not good overall. And Intel is just spending cores, which is similarly, you hit thermal limits. And Apple is, by virtue of using efficiency to increase performance, they're getting modest gains overall, but they're doing such specialized packages that I think we're gonna be surprised by how well they work inside the phone for the tasks that we do with iOS.
Other rumors, speaking of smaller packages, Apple will save money on shipping costs by eliminating the earbuds and the charging brick. They did that with the watch, I noticed. And they'll make up for that with a braided cable. Lightning to USB-C. Woo!
For the pros though, right? That one's not for all 4 of them. That's just for the pros, I believe.
Yes, the pros will get the braided cable, but even the non-pro will get the USB-C to Lightning cable. That's just, who knows? You know, these rumors, as you say.
Yeah.
That could even just be a new cable
Twitter.
that Apple is going to sell.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's a cable that will be in the box.
Right.
And most people still have USB-A on their PCs. So, I mean, who are we serving with some of these changes?
Right.
The thing that I found kind of interesting is that, again, according to rumors, that for the bottom 2, it's still going to be 64 gig as the floor for storage, which seems kind of chintzy in 2020. I know that a lot of people say that 64 gigs is plenty, but that's not a whole lot of headroom if you're shooting 4K video. It's not a whole lot of headroom if you're downloading movies and video that you bought or streamed.
Well, presumably that would be the scaled to size. So the Mini would be the one that started at 64 gigs, which I don't think anybody's shooting 4K video on a phone like that they would most likely be buying the Pro phone if they're looking to do something like that. So it might be a matter of keeping a cost for the Mini because I'm not going to pay $1,000 for a Mini. That's too much. But if you give it to me a few $100s less than that, and you kind of trim off some excess that could help reduce the cost. Like I would get a 64 gig Mini instead of a starting price of 120 gig Mini because that would give me the lower starting point. Is the rumor.
But I saw I did see one of the Twitter rumors that both the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Mini, again, just a rumor, the floor was 64.
Yeah. This is according to Apple Track's 72.7% accurate John Prosser. His score went down a little bit. The first shipments of iPhone 12s going out to distributors October 5th. There will be a Mini with 64 gigs. There will be a 12 with 64 gigs. The Pros will start at 128 gigs.
Yeah.
The issue that Apple's facing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
This is what happens when
the issue
two
that
Wi-Fi signals meet. Both of them just
The issue Apple's facing is that the cost for these phones have gone way up because they're putting OLED panels in the regular models now. They're putting much better OLED panels in the Pros, and the 5G modems. Qualcomm is exacting a really pretty penny for all of that technology. And we've seen other vendors hike up prices. Like if you look what Galaxy S20 and Note 20 cost this year compared to last year, even some of the higher end OnePlus devices compared to previously, everyone is just passing those costs on to consumers. And it looks like Apple wants to maintain pricing. They're going to play a little bit of a game where they reduce the mini by $50, but raise the regular one by $50. So you have basically two ends of those, but they're going to keep the $999 and $1099 and not raise those. So everything that they can do to cut costs around that and keep those prices, I think I don't want to say desperately, but I think in 2020, when people are really feeling the pinch, they're trying to keep those prices as stable as they can.
Yeah, I just wonder if they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. If they're making, I hope that the sum total of choices that they're making, meaning that we're going to hold the line on display technology, we're going to hold the line on processor power, we're going to hold the line on this, which means that we have less money left if we're going to hold on to a $699 price point to put in 128 gigs. I hope that they're not taking away something that would be useful and life-saving. And if you are on a vacation and you didn't know you're going to be shooting 20 minutes of video, you didn't know you're going to be hanging out and doing a lot of stuff, and suddenly you are just playing out and you've got too much time before you can get back to the hotel on the Wi-Fi. That's something that people would say, gee, I'm really glad that I have this high refresh rate on this display so that the warning saying that you're totally out of storage, sorry, you're not going to be able to get pictures.
Oh, you're not even getting that.
Playing.
But at least you have an SD card. Oops, sorry.
Right. Well, as long as they have the headphone jack.
Don't.
Not even the headphones, Andy. Like you have nothing to plug into that jack anymore.
How about if there's like a USB-C type jack, but it's just a sticker? So
I have this nightmare. I have this nightmare that Apple's finally going to announce USB-C for iPhones the minute the consortium announces USB-C Mini.
Oy.
That's how I see this all playing out.
Oy. Yeah, I can just see that happening, huh?
We decided to put a notch in our USB-C jack just to be Apple.
I feel bad if I were John Prosser because he's been downgraded to 72.7%
He's
accurate.
back up, though.
And then Fudge, somebody named Fudge is beating him. 90% accurate.
There's so much drama, Leo. There's so much drama.
Notice that Fudge only has 11 rumors.
Yeah,
though.
easy to be accurate when you only have 11.
The accuracy only matters with how many, like in comparison to how many rumors are out, which I think Rene had brought up once before that you kind of, that tips the scales for sure. That, I could be 100% accurate if there was one thing that I said that happened to come true. So, it kind of, you got to take it.
There is a new raid boss champion, though. There's Kang, who's like, he only says things immediately before they happen, but they're always 100% true. So I imagine that he's just watching the things fall off the assembly line into the truck and then putting them up on Sino Weibo. And then it's just 100% accurate.
Love to Dream's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
He had pictures, or
he got upset and left, though.
Oh, he left, really? Pictures of the watch band, never released. Man, if you can get this, you have something special. This is the Tokyo Olympics 2020 commemorative watch band. Of course, the Olympics didn't happen. It looks just as a red watch. It's a sport loop, red and gray. It's pretty. I would get that.
Yeah. They did that a couple of years ago when they actually had a Winter Olympics.
Yeah. I asked my mom what band she wanted. I said, I'll get you the red watch with the red band. She said, no, I want black on black. I said, cool.
Your mom is Matt Black all the things?
Yeah. She said, cool. Okay. Let's see. I think we can. Is there anything I missed that's really exciting? There's 14.01 came out. Lots of bug fixes. Still a few bugs in at least on the iPhone. Little weird things, but they fixed them up.
Yeah.
They fixed them up. No longer signing 13.7. That's it. You can't downgrade.
Sorry, kids.
Has WatchOS 7 been reliable and good for you guys? Seems to be no problem for me. I'm liking it.
A lot of people had battery issues, but I think repairing solved it for most of them, which happens, it seems, every year.
Yeah, that's normal. I did, by the way, Lory, turn on. I didn't have hand washing turned on. Now it annoys me every time I wash my hands. So that's I got that going for me.
It goes off from. Did we talk about this? It goes off for me when I'm making, like if I'm cooking and I'm sizzling onions and using the pepper grinder. The combination of the sound from the sizzling onions and the movement from the pepper grinder sets it off every time. I'm like, I got to grind pepper for 20 seconds now. Thank you, Apple.
Now we have some new information. They could do like a fried food alert sensor saying, "Are you having something fried again?"
Hey, here's a question for you. I'm doing, I do this show called Hands on Mac. Comes out every Friday. It's just me and my Mac and some tips and stuff like that. And I just started a series called The Road to Big Sur, which is all about, getting ready for Big Sur. Because as I mentioned, I think I'm going to wipe the drive and start over. So I've been talking about things to do. And I'm about to do 2 more, which won't come out for a couple of weeks. Should I not? In other words, will Big Sur be out by then?
I have written several books about major Mac OS releases, and I've learned to basically slide 2 months past the deadline if you have any chance of being accurate at all.
Yeah. Are they going to wait till they have Apple Silicon and then announce it with that?
Would be like November, like October, that would be a while.
I don't think they will. I don't think they'll wait for Apple Silicon. There's no reason for them to do that. I think they'll launch it
at the iPhone event.
Maybe. Maybe.
Well, you'll get
maybe
2
next
launches,
week,
right?
Maybe this week.
Oh, so it might be soon.
Yeah, I don't think it's this week though. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit later than that, but it could be within the next couple of weeks.
People who are using the beta, I don't know who that is. Is it pretty reliable now, or I'd heard there was kind of needed some work.
Yeah, a lot of people have said, please hold.
Yeah, don't rush it. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just asking, as I said, for a friend.
For a friend.
Yeah.
This is an exciting time of year. I've never been so clueless about. We're used to like predicting. Oh well, that's going to be an October event, and we're going to definitely see the launch of the Gold Master of this by then, and nothing you can count on. Yeah. It's like okay, que sera, sera.
They have 2 bites of the apple this time. Not to be punny, but they can release the Intel version, and then when they do the Apple Silicon, they can talk about all these specific features for Apple Silicon, like the hypervisor stuff and a bunch of other the new secure boot facilities and the remote restore stuff. There's a bunch of stories they can tell around that as well. So we'll be getting like 2 versions of Big Sur, almost like when they did the second version of Tiger for Intel Macs.
It's not typical that they would talk about Big Sur at an iPhone event. They usually reserve that for the iPhone.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen here.
Especially something as important as the iPhone, where I'm not sure if they want to distract attention. I'm not sure if they have distracted attention like that before. Usually, the iPhone launches have been pretty focused.
Yeah.
They could give you 24 hours notice, though, Leo. I mean, come on.
True.
Yeah. Right. Plenty of time. Let's take a little break, and when we come back, prepare your picks of the week. Our show today brought to you by Twilio. Developers love Twilio. I love Twilio. Anybody who wants to engage with their customers, wherever their customers are, would love Twilio. In business now, the most important thing is to stay in touch with customers, to help them, to engage with them, to give them what they need. And you can, with Twilio, engage with customers anywhere they are. Text messages, emails, phone calls, video, all on one single powerful platform. It's time to build with Twilio. Twilio operates at scale. They power 795 plus billion interactions across channels with 5 nines of uptime, 99.999% uptime, 3 billion phone numbers available, more than 100 countries. Shopify uses Twilio to run their entire global contact center. That's that Twilio Flex product. 1 million customers. That's huge. Blue Apron uses Twilio's SendGrid to do their newsletter emails. Netflix uses Twilio two-factor to keep your online accounts secure. The fact is, probably most of us use Twilio every day in our lives. If you use the Authy app, that two-factor app, that's a Twilio app, my favorite two-factor authenticator. Ride sharing and contact list delivery services. Lyft and Uber use text messaging from Twilio, and on and on. Everybody uses Twilio. Productions and operations teams love Twilio for creating new ways to communicate with their users inside of applications. In fact, it's so easy to work with Twilio. If you're a web developer, you already know how. If you build web applications, you can build apps that text, call, chat, and video conferencing with just a few lines of code. That's because Twilio is built by developers for developers. You don't need to be some sort of specialized telecom network wizard to build incredible communications apps. You just need Twilio. Marketing teams love Twilio to get the word out, connecting with leads over text messaging and phone calls. They send campaigns over email. They build chatbots with Twilio to answer questions. I'm guessing probably more than a few political campaigns are using Twilio to send out all those texts we've been getting in the last couple of weeks. You can do it all with Twilio. And, of course, that Twilio Flex app, very popular with customer service teams. Helps you build a global contact and support center as easily as possible. Strengthen your customer relationships by uniting communications across your entire business. Is something you want, is something they want, and it's easy to do with Twilio. Go to Twilio.com to learn more today. Twilio.com. I've been a Twilio customer. Just as a hobbyist, I love playing with Twilio. I use it for all sorts of things. Twilio, it's time to build. Thank you, Twilio, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako, do you have a pick for us?
I have a pick and actually another, that's kind of a tip. Last week, I recommended very, very highly Joyce DiDonato's streaming recital at the Mentor Opera site. $20. You got to stream it for about a week. It was supposed to go away on Friday, and I recommended it last week because it really was kind of beautiful and spiritual, and again, really, really tough week, and it really helped me find my sense of peace and perspective once again. Very, very pleased that a bunch of people, listeners, tweeted and emailed saying, "Hey, thanks for the recommendation. It really worked out well." It was supposed to go away on Friday because Anna Netrebko is going to be doing a concert of her own. Unfortunately, she contracted COVID, so that's been canceled.
Yikes.
Another performance that was supposed to be in 2 weeks' time has been canceled because the location has become a COVID hotspot. So the only good news to come out of that is that they are keeping up Joyce DiDonato's recital for the entire month. Good. So if you missed out on it last week,
oh, good.
Exactly. So $20, but you'll be able to watch it on demand as many times as you want through a browser. And as I said, it's one of those things that I hope that it's available like as keep it for life media, because this is like, I need to listen to this 90-minute program again because I've had a bad week or a bad day, and it just puts whatever it is that ails you that can be cured by music, it will be cured for me, at least, by this. Nice. So renewing that recommendation, you have basically for the next 2 or 3 weeks to go there. Go to medopera.org to buy your ticket. Then you just plug in your email on the URL whenever you want to stream it. But the pick of the week is this really, really great web privacy awareness tool that the Markup site has commissioned and put together. It's called Blacklight. If you go to themarkup.org/blacklight, you punch in a URL and it will basically do a scan of through a proxy of here's all the privacy inspection, all the privacy details that you're giving up through using this site. And it's not just cookies, it's not just ad trackers. It's also like the magic pixel for Facebook. So that does Facebook know that you've been visiting the site? Is it capturing your web canvas to try to identify you that way? Is it observing how you're moving the mouse? Just detail. Gives you a very, very well explained report of all of these issues and why they're important. It will also, just as importantly, it will explain to you we found 4 trackers. That's actually fewer than we are used to seeing on a site of this kind. And the technology that they put into this tool is really impressive. Usually, I have Ghostery, I have ad blocking tools, but the thing is, it will only tell me post fact that I visited this site, and then suddenly the counter goes here are the 121 trackers that have just been blocked by this thing. It's not you visiting the site. It is the markups. It's the markup servers who are accessing the site. It will not only check the URL that you've given it. If it's like a top level, if it's the address of a main site like Reddit, it will also sample a random piece of content that's buried inside somewhere the menu structure and compare the two. So it's not as though like the landing page is kind of a soft landing, but it's only when you actually read an article or stream a video or listen to a piece of music that it actually hits you with all these trackers. You don't necessarily have to do something about it once you get this information, but I think it's really important that you have this information. And boy, it really does change your point of view when you realize exactly not only here is a numerical number of that's higher than another number you might have encountered on another site, but again, it will go you reveal the drop-down menu for an item, and it will say here is exactly how these trackers are working. Here are the identities of these trackers. Here's why this might be a big deal. This might not be a big deal. Information is power. You need to know this sort of stuff, and so it was what a wonderful gift that the markup has given to the internet community to make sure that there's more transparency in how these things work. It's not enough just to simply say, hey, here's the number of cookies we tracked. It's also here's exactly what the problem is, and here's how if you are upset by this tracker, here's a way to block around it. Here's what you need to do to your browser in order to do it. There's like other articles and documentation on the markup.org surrounding this. It was just released last week, so I'm gonna assume that with the level of craftsmanship in this tool, it's just going to get better and better in the coming weeks, because the number of tricks that that marketing sites use to track and identify you, despite every single explicit statement you've made through setting your settings that I do not want to be tracked. Well, screw you. Doesn't matter what you think. If you're blocking this, we'll find a way around it. You really need to have a countermeasure in plan, and this is a really good countermeasure.
I have just learned something I would have never expected using Markdown. You know lingscars.com? You'd expect this site would be loaded with trackers and cookies and all sorts of crap. This is actually the most benign site I've ever seen on the internet. One cookie. Wow. That's it. No trackers, no Facebook, no analytics. Ling looks out for her customers. That's because she's Ling and you're not.
I think it's because there's so much animation and color on that page. There's no more bandwidth left and on Cloudflare or anywhere to do more tracking. Okay, that makes me nervous.
There's literally, I can't even believe it. There's no tracking on this, the ugliest page on the internet.
Is there another site where we can check for like conflicts between medications, prescriptions that this person might be taking? That
we interviewed her years ago. I interviewed her on Triangulation. She was wearing a life jacket for some reason. I'm not sure why. Quite a character. But you know what? You gotta love her. No trackers. Yep. No trackers.
Good for her.
Good for you.
It's themarkup.org/blacklight. Rene Ritchie, pick of the week.
So I was actually going to mention this before we saw the slight spoiler on your screen, but there's a new video from ILM up, which talks about how they did model work.
How did YouTube know this was your pick of the week and then recommend it to me before you mentioned
to our microphone?
It's crazy, man. Crazy.
I mean, they know everything, Leo, but it's so delightful because you see everybody, all the old school Lucas people who've been there forever, just get so excited they get to do model work again.
Oh, that's
and
neat.
When they hear someone's printing something, they go and they all crowd around and they're watching it, and then they have to get a shot ready, and they can't get the track they want in time, so they got to borrow one of the old traditional ones, and they have like an old school Canon camera filming it, and it is so delightful on so many geeky, nerdy levels that it's not my pick of the week, but I did want to bring it up just so that everybody.
It's pretty darn cool to watch them do this. Yeah.
It is. The Mandalorian is some of the best Star Wars we've had in many decades. This and Rebels and Clone Wars. So I'm super happy that it's getting.
So is this Mandalorian effects primarily, or?
Yeah, this is all Mandalorian. This is how they designed the ship and the influences and how they built it and how they filmed it using like real models, and it's so good.
Oh man, this is amazing. Yeah, that was our first 1080p camera that Alex Lindsay bought, the old model cam from episode 4.
So good.
Yeah, really cool. But that's not your real pick.
My pick of the week is again, we're spending a lot of time on home screens now, with things like Widgetsmith. And this one is another app. And did I paste it in? Yeah, Sticky Widgets. And it's either as brilliant or as horrific as you decide that it is. Basically, it lets you put widgets that look like sticky notes, like marker felt encrusted pastel colored sticky notes on your iPhone to store lists or reminders or notes, almost. Or I guess, if your IT department makes you change your password every 2 weeks, you could don't stick that there. Please don't put your password there. But it just lets you turn your iPhone screen into a sticky note so that you can remember all the things you want to remember. I joked with the developer that he should offer Comic Sans as a $10 in-app purchase.
People would buy it.
I think they would for both the best and absolute worst reasons. But I'm sure he's going to develop it. But it's proven really popular right away. And somewhere Johnny Ive and Alan Dye's eyes are just bleeding as they're watching what's happening to all these home screens.
Fluorescent
People want this functionality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if the Apple wants it to look better, their job is to make it look better. But people are really enjoying the sort of experiences they're getting. And this is another way that you can make widgets more functional for you.
And if you want to rebel against the lack of home screen widgets on the iPad OS, you could just fill the left column with sticky notes.
Yeah.
And then send a copy to Tim Cook. Or make it the wallpaper.
Make a wallpaper with sticky notes on it and just keep adding that. And that could be your defiance.
Great pick of the week. Thank you, Rene. And now, Lory, I'm getting my wallet out.
Yes.
What's your pick of the week?
It depends on if you're a retro camera fan, because what I'm recommending today is the Polaroid camera. Yes, the Polaroid that takes instant pictures. They just recently came out with a Mandalorian themed I-type, which is their standard. So today's standard Polaroid film camera is called an I-type, and that's what you're familiar with. And they have a special edition model right now that has a little Mandalorian logo on the top back side of it. And you can also get, I just got the film because I own my own Polaroid. I have for a couple of years. I absolutely love
How big
them.
are those prints?
They're
are they
just
the size of the old Polaroid prints, or are they a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Oh.
Yeah, they're the same size. I have a box of them that I'll show you right now.
This looks like my mom and dad when I was a kid
ones.
had an SX70, which is the top of the line Polaroid, or Meet the Swinger, Polaroid Swinger. But so this is not a bad camera for $120.
Here's what it looks like.
That's nice.
So that's a standard.
Yeah.
And it does the same like weird filtering where it catches light in the weirdest ways, and it's beautiful. It's art in and of itself. I love it so much. So yes, you can get the Mandalorian model if you're a Star Wars fan. I didn't get it. I restrained myself, but I did get the film. I went ahead and bought the pack of film. So I'll be probably using the film this weekend to take pictures of whatever I'm doing.
And despite what you might have heard about the cost of licensing Star Wars characters, it is no more expensive than a regular I-type. So there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, because usually licensing costs. I think the film itself costs more money.
They make so much money on the film. That's really the key here. They can give the
It's so expensive. Yeah. It's like $2 a print.
Oh, they still
but
sell
I love
an
it
SX70?
anyway.
Now, is this the same old Polaroid, or is this a fake Polaroid?
These ones right here that you're looking at are actual vintage cameras. These are are from the year that this company restores old Polaroid cameras, but they also have new cameras, which is they have the I-type and one other, the H-type or something like that, and they're very similar, but yeah. So what you're looking at are restored. Actual.
I remember this vividly. My parents had this, and this was a big deal.
This was like the iPhone of like the iPod of the day.
He has an SX70.
It's like
look at that.
I've got the Sonar model.
Oh my God! And somebody has matte finished yours. Look at that.
The leather needs some restoration.
They took the leather off.
I got but MIT flea market, $10. Oh, but yeah, this is.
Does it work?
I've only run. It works. I've only run actually, you can probably hear like the dead battery from the last pack of film. Yeah, so you can hear.
Oh yeah, the film has the battery.
Ooh,
Yeah.
actually, there was.
You just took a
you just took
picture.
a picture. That's so
Oh,
great.
I love that sound.
But it's
Yeah.
it's ancient film, so it probably didn't work. Like I said, I
Right.
think I was able to find like one pack of film for like $30, and even that was probably about what it would have cost back in the day. But
So
yeah,
I wonder, I've never been able to figure it out, is whether or not the 600 film that you can get, is that compatible with your retro camera so that you can actually use it all the time? Because I know you can't, even if you buy, just like you did, you buy an old pack of Polaroid film, the film itself is destroyed. So you're never going to take good pictures. You're going to get like 2 out of 10 are going to be good pictures because the film itself is destroyed. But I wonder if you could use brand new,
They
600,
have 600. They say to power your vintage camera. So
yeah.
Ooh,
Andy.
Andy.
I should. Oh, that's not bad. I should buy a couple packs.
$18.99. Yeah.
The last I checked into it, which was like a while ago.
SX50 film. They also XX70 film.
There
they
was
also have. Yeah.
there was a company that had bought like a whole bunch of like manufacturing equipment, and we're trying to like reformulate it. And the word was that it kind of works, but it's such a low ISO that you really need just like really, really bright daylight. But for $19, I'm going to buy a pack or two and see.
Give it a
Because the cool thing is. Because the cool thing is, like, this was such a great idea. Because on top of everything else, well, it was ecologically really, really wasteful. Because the film pack also contained like a 5-volt battery that powers the entire camera. So, like, with the cartridges out, it's like this is a completely like dead object. And so every time you threw you took your 10 pictures and then threw away like the empty like film frame at Disney World, you were throwing out a 5-volt battery that was actually not only full of chemicals but also had a lot of like real life left into it. But yeah, thank you. This is going to be expensive for me because now I'm going to have to like buy some film packs. It's hard to. I mean, it's nostalgia at its best / worst because there is no planet. There's no planet in which spending that's what $1.30 per print on a print that's nowhere near as good as what I would take on my phone 8 years ago. But like you just found out, like being able to do this and now it's unfolded and deployed and then taking a picture and let's see if I got another.
Look at that.
That must have been the last one.
That time.
But yeah,
okay.
The magic of this is actually like
what the hell is that?
It's
beautiful. This is how it worked.
It is. That's art. Whatever that is, that's art. You could sell
all the
that.
chemicals were like in this like sort of like a foil ketchup packet in the back on the bottom here. So this is the unexposed film. And so when you take a picture, rollers would like squeeze the chemicals evenly like across the whole thing. And those the developer chemicals. That's why it took like half a minute to a minute to expose. There were a lot of people who were doing art that way where they would take pictures and then like get like the blunt end of a ballpoint pen and just like rub images and like patterns on it because that would mess up the colors and the details and how things would be delivered. But actually, that's not too bad, man. I might
you guys
are
rank amateurs. If I were taking, I would get the 8x10 large format Polaroid camera and go out on the road, get a hood to put over my head.
Oh wow,
that's a camera.
I think if you're going to get that, you're going to have to get like that big like tub of magnesium on a stick.
Yeah. Smile. Oh man, I would love that. Oh man.
But yeah, this is, I mean, it's no joke. Polaroid was the Apple of the 70s, and this was like, again, like an iPod or like an iPhone. It was just such a beautiful and magical sort of thing that people did not understood why this, by the way, this is an SLR. This is not when you look through here, you're looking through like the film, the light path to the film. So that was absolutely no joke. Nice. So you're not, you're composing. Anyway, about to, my pick of the week is who wants to buy this from me for $200? But yeah, no, it was like I was even at the MIT Flea, these kind of go for, I think I bought this 5 years ago and even then they were going for like 50, 60, 70, $80. But I managed to find for me, it was in the $10 or $20 price range. And I was like, no way, I'm not buying this. You're also, I'm sorry, I'll stop babbling. I'm just remembering how cool I think this is. You can actually buy like replacement. Like I remind myself that I found a store on eBay that actually makes like replacement leather where it's like decal. So if you like manage to peel and scrape this off, you can like upgrade the leathers back to the way they were. Because yeah, this looks like zombie SX70. This is perfect for Halloween.
It's zombie leather.
Yes.
My pick of the week is something I just went through. I mentioned this a couple of times. We decided, the hell with it. If we're all going to be Zooming, and we're all going to be, we're gonna wire the house. So I got a guy to come out, run Cat 6 cable from the attic and the crawl space, drops at every conceivable place, not just the computer stations, but also the TV area, and just everywhere we might want wiring. And then, unfortunately, we went to a company that does home theater CD installs, and they talked me into it. I was a fool to go for it. Some kind of home theater brand equipment from a company called Arachnus, and I couldn't control it at all. So I said, please take this back. I don't want it. And I talked to Russell and I talked to John, and they said, you need Ubiquiti. So I went out and I got a Unify system. And I have to say, there's actually an iPhone angle on this, which I'll show you in just a second. There's a great iPhone app, but you can also log in. This is my network. And you can see the whole thing. This thing works so well, and the software is so cool. It makes it very easy to do things like create separate VLANs for the IoT devices. Here's a map of all the devices connected and what's connected to what. I've slowly been going through and naming devices. You can see what everything is doing. You can, if you're on a VLAN, you can move things around. It's really a beautiful, beautiful system with incredible sophisticated additional tools for internet security. There's threat management. There's geographic IP filtering. There's deep packet inspection. There's, of course, a firewall. But if you have an iPhone and the iPhone app, you're going to love this. And this is, I can't demo it, so I'm taking somebody's video from the internet. But this supports AR with the iPhone. So what you do is you capture your whole rack in the viewfinder, and then the iPhone says, all right, I got it. And now, as you point it at the ports, it will show you what each port is connected to. Just a second. I guess he's got to get the right angle here. He's got to scan the QR code. And now he sees his 16-port PoE switch, and he can see in augmented reality what it's all plugged into. This is completely worthless, but so cool. So if you have an iPhone, well, you just got to go out and buy a Unify system because it's pretty neat. Actually, I'm very happy. The speeds are fantastic. The reliability, I'm told by everybody who uses them, is very good. And they now have, it's kind of enterprisey gear. It used to be that you'd have to run a separate controller on a Java machine on your Windows or Mac or Linux box. That's all built into the Dream Machine, which is their newest system. And actually, a Ubiquiti Dream Machine is about $300. It comes with a Wi-Fi access point built in. It's just a little tube. So if you're looking to replace, I think where this really is going to hit home is with people who have at airport extremes, and they're just going, what do I do now? How do I replace this? And I think the Dream Machine is great. You can easily add more switches. Air access points use power over Ethernet, so all you have to do is drop an Ethernet cable wherever you want them to be, and you can expand this very easily. So it used to be something that was just outrageously expensive, and now I think with the quality of the software and what they're doing, and now if you do this, you have to get a switch so you can do the augmented reality, but I think it's pretty good. I am very, very happy. I'm using a Dream Machine Pro, and I ended up buying a 48-port Ubiquiti 48-port PoE switch, lots of little switches, 5 access points, and the house is humming. I mean, literally, you could feel the electricity coursing through you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this edition of MacBreak Weekly. I want to thank you all for joining us. A tip of the hat to Rene Ritchie, youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. Look forward to seeing everything you've got going, including your brand new show. What is the name of the show you're doing with Georgia? Besides
Apple Talk.
GNR. Apple
Talk.
Apple Talk. Is that good? Are you going to keep with that? Stay with that?
I think so. I mean, we have an Apple topic and a tech topic, and then some fun stuff at the end. And it, I cover Apple, so it's just easier. Georgia talks really well, so I figure it's a good name.
She talks. You're Apple. It's
actually Serenity Caldwell came up with it. It was a name of a podcast we did a long time ago, and then I asked her blessing to use it for this, and she very kindly obliged.
Nice. 994 subscribers. Let's get to 1,000 before we wrap the show. What do you say? YouTube.com. Search for Apple Talk with Georgia and Rene, or as Dalrymple calls you, Rene.
I love Jim.
Thank you so much, Lory Gill. Great to have you, managing editor at iMore. Did your review go up of the Apple Watch?
It did.
Good.
You can find it on imore.com.
I shall look for
Actually,
that.
it's imore.com/Apple Watch Series 6 review. There's a slash between each one of those words.
Okay, well, that makes it easy to find, I guess. Thank you, Lory. Really appreciate your being here. And, of course, thanks so much to Andy Ihnatko. When are you going to be on GBH in Boston next?
A little late this week. I'm going to be on, actually a little early, I'm sorry, this week, Thursday at 1:20 p.m. Go to wgbhnews.org to stream it live or later.
Nice. We do MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, sometime in the window between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. on Tuesdays. It's supposed to be 11. Depends on when things get started and how long shows go and so forth. Remember, you can watch us produce the show. This isn't actually the content. If you want to watch us in our live stream, go to twit.tv/live. There's live audio or video. You can listen as well as watch. And like I said, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. It's not going to be before then. Let's put it that way. It'll be there or after. Part of our Big Apple Day, because we start with iOS today around 9 a.m. Pacific. You can get on-demand shows. Don't ever worry about the timing. If you get an on-demand show, you can listen whenever it's convenient to you. They're available in a variety of places. You could always go to the website, twit.tv. For this show, it's twit.tv/MBW. You can, of course, go to YouTube. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to MacBreak Weekly. And all 500 of you subscribers, thank you. You can also get it on your Siri or your Google Voice or your Amazon Echo device by asking for the MacBreak Weekly podcast. And if you subscribe in your favorite podcast application, you don't have to do any of this rigmarole. You can just get it whenever it's ready. Just download it and listen or watch. Thanks for being here. Now I'm sad to say it's time to get back to work because break time is over.
Want more twit? Well, check out Smart Tech Today. It's at twit.tv/STT. It's the show where Matthew Casanelli and I cover everything there is to know about smart tech. It's automation, it's connected devices, it's smart home, it's all those goodies and so much more. We get the news, we get the latest devices, we do reviews, everything. You got to check it out, twit.tv/STT for Smart Tech Today.